I would call to order the Village of Westmont Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for September 11th, 2013. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Pill?
Here.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Here.
Commissioner Anton?
Here.
Commissioner Van Buren is here. Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Fleet?
Here.
Chairman Richard?
Here.
We have a quorum.
If you would please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please, while I have you all standing, we have to swear you in for any testimony you're going to give this evening, either for or against any item on the agenda. So if you'd please raise your hands if you intend to testify. I swear that any testimony I give this evening shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
I do.
I do. I would ask that you silence any and all electronic devices, if you would, please. And when you come up to give testimony, if you would please sign in. Jill, do we have a sign-in sheet up there?
It's been passed around right now.
Okay. Okay, next item of business is the approval of the minutes of our June 12, July 10, and August 14 meetings. I'm told that we only have July 10 and August 14 minutes available. I would question, where are the June minutes? We need to publish these minutes.
We'll follow up on that.
It's getting a little long before we have these minutes. Should not be. Okay, you've all looked at the minutes of July and August. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the July 10th minutes?
And the August 14th.
And the August?
You do them together?
Yeah.
And the August 14th meeting?
Second.
Okay, that's a motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Question on the motion? May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Chairman Richard?
Yes. Okay, the minutes as printed are hereby approved. Seeing the amount of respondents tonight for our items on the agenda, I intend to move our agenda around a little bit. We have Planning and Zoning Item 13024. It is for a special use permit request to operate a fitness studio in the B2 General Business District. John, do I need a motion on that?
Yes.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion to amend the order of tonight's agenda to move PZ 13-024 to the next item heard.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on the motion? A roll call, please.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco? Yes. Chairman Richard?
Yes. Okay, Planning and Zoning Item 13024. Luke Perano and Michelle Tenuta of Rising Goodness Fitness regarding the property located at 208 East Chicago Avenue for the following. A, special use permit request to operate a fitness studio in the B2 General Business District. Good evening.
Evening. Hi, my name is Michelle Tenuta. This is my partner, Barb. First, we'd like to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present tonight regarding our request for a special use permit to open our fitness studio, Rising Goddess Fitness, in Westmont. We'd like to first start by giving you a little bit of background on ourselves. My background is in finance and real estate. I've worked my entire career in corporate America. Currently, I'm a vice president at a commercial real estate company in downtown Chicago. With my day job being so analytical, I really appreciate the ability to relieve stress through fitness. And in recent years, my passion for fitness naturally grew into becoming a certified fitness instructor.
To reiterate what Michelle just said, we really do appreciate your time tonight and are very excited to be here. As for some background on myself, I've been an educator most of my life. I first started with preschool and then operated a home daycare business. I've also taught at the elementary through college level. I currently teach at the high school level and have been an adjunct for local university for the past 12 years. In recent years, my passion for teaching and my desire to live a healthy lifestyle has led me to become a certified fitness instructor. Michelle and I both hold several fitness certifications, including ACE and AFA, group fitness certifications. We have Yoga for Pole certification, aerial yoga certification, and we both are Pole Moves Advanced certified instructors. In addition to our certifications, we have both taught aerial fitness at a local studio up until recently, and we ended up resigning so that we could focus our efforts on opening our own fitness studio.
We'd briefly like to give you some insight into our business plan and what we intend to provide. Rising Goddess is a fitness studio that focuses on aerial arts, including silks, aerial yoga, and pole fitness. In addition to those primary offerings, we'll also provide Zumba, hoops, various other types of yoga, and cardio strength building and flexibility classes. We have some amazing instructors lined up to already teach some of these specialty classes. Our earliest class would start around 9 in the morning. The latest class would run until around 9 p.m., which is consistent with the other businesses currently operating within the plaza. Our studio will have the option to run 2 classes simultaneously, and all class sizes will be limited to 10 women or less. Our vision for our business is to provide women with a safe, fun, and supportive fitness environment where they can challenge themselves, form friendships with their classmates, and feel empowered by their successes. We see our facility as a place where women can step outside of their daily routines and invest time into themselves so they can leave feeling recharged, confident, and grounded. Our classes extend beyond the typical fitness classes you might find at your local gym. They're creative, uniquely challenging, and offer the newest modalities for fitness. Speaking of new modalities, we know that aerial fitness is a fairly new concept to many people, and so we felt it might be helpful to give you a sneak peek into what a studio might look like. Can we show
The first picture. There you go.
Is there a way to blow that up?
It's already on enlarge, I think, but
Okay. Can everyone see that?
can everybody see that at least? Sorry, that's as big as I can get it on the computer.
As you can see from the images, the concept of aerial fitness uses an apparatus, such as a pole or a hammock, to perform fitness-based moves. Both apparatuses can be used for yoga-inspired movements as well as dance-based movements. This type of fitness is all-encompassing. Women will benefit from an aerobic exercise, be able to develop core muscle tone, develop entire body strength, and increase flexibility, all while having a creative outlet for expression through movement. And the results from this type of fitness modality are remarkable, not only from a physical perspective, but also a mental one. Aerial fitness is hugely popular across the entire world. Prior to the year 2000, it was virtually unheard of. However, today you won't have to look very hard to find positive media coverage on the topic. Locally, we've been immersed in the aerial fitness realm, and we know the demand for this type of fitness facility to be substantial. In the Chicagoland area alone, there's approximately 20 studios that offer some version of aerial fitness. However, none of them currently offer multiple aerial modalities like we will, and we feel that makes us especially unique.
We would like to touch briefly on our decision-making process for selecting Westmont as the location for our business. We know, as business owners, that location is going to mean everything to us, and Westmont was really a natural choice for us as we were researching the ideal place to open. Westmont, for me personally, holds a special place in my heart. I actually lived in the Village for 12 years over on Park Avenue. My children went to Miller and Westmont Middle School, and my foster daughter actually went to Westmont High School. When Michelle and I were looking for a studio space to open our business, Westmont was at the very top of our list. We love that it maintains the feeling of a quaint, small town, but it still offers the opportunities of a large city, including a large number of events and festivals, which we intend to participate in. Once we started looking more closely at the locations of the other aerial studios in the Chicagoland area, it became even more evident that Westmont would be a great location for us. So we have another visual, so let me pull this down. There we go. If you look at this map of the Chicagoland area, you can see where businesses similar to ours reside. They're the little red dots everywhere. You can see that Westmont is a perfect location for this type of use. It's centrally located, easily accessible, and lies in an area that is currently untouched by our direct competitors. Further, after talking to some local business owners and hearing their success stories, we became even more enthusiastic and confident that your village is actually the perfect location to grow our business on a long-term basis. In our experience, women will drive for over an hour to find an aerial fitness studio that suits their needs. Our studio will bring these women into the Westmont community not only for our classes, but also for our planned workshops and our charity events, which we will discuss in a moment. Women coming to our studio will not only bring business to the immediate plaza we would be located in, but they will also be connecting with other local businesses that we intend to partner with throughout the community. We view our use to be mutually beneficial to the village, its residents, and to us as a business.
Upon searching for a specific location within the community, we happened upon the space at 280 Chicago. From the moment that we stepped into the space, which was the largest in the plaza, we knew it was perfect for our use. Having been a former dance studio, the layout was already ideal.
Okay, so let me pull out our drawings of our studio so you can see. Sorry. There we go.
As you can see, we'll have two separate studios within our space. One of our studios will be dedicated to pole fitness, and the second studio will have a multi-purpose function. Our aerial hammocks will be in that studio as well as a ballet bar. We'll use the studio for yoga, Zumba, and hooping as well. We'll also have a room dedicated specifically for merchandise. We'll be selling yoga clothing, leg warmers, yoga mats, grip products, water bottles, and power bars. We feel that having a dedicated merchandise room will allow women to easily see the display of products we'll sell. Let's face it, women spend money on things they're passionate about. From our experience in aerial fitness, we know women are constantly looking for the newest products on the market to purchase, and this will have a positive financial impact on the village through tax revenue. Lastly, we'll have a student lounge room. We see our facility as a place that women can not only go to work out, but also to have a place to hang out with their peers and just unwind.
We really feel that owning a business comes with a great responsibility to give back to the community. As a result, we are starting our own charity, which is going to be called Giving Goddess, and this is going to be to support local women and children. We intend to have a once-a-month Giving Goddess open house on a Friday night, and with that, all our proceeds, all of the money that we make from that will be going to a local charity. Women will be able to come to the studio for 2 hours and can bring a friend to attend our specialty fitness classes. We will then partner with a local business for an informal after event. We're very excited to establish and grow our relationship with other local businesses so that we can all support one another. We also plan to join the Chamber of Commerce and will participate in local festivals and events. Further, we will be offering discounts on our classes to college students, teachers, military personnel, nurses, and seniors. So in closing, we hope we've provided you with some insight into our business plan. We are genuinely, thoroughly excited to open our business in Westmont and would be honored to establish a long-term successful relationship with the village. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have and respectfully request your approval of our special use permit.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to comment either for or against this special use? Seeing and hearing no comments, we'll close the public comment. Staff.
This space is a former dance studio, and it should be a unique new addition to the shopping center. It will attract visitors to Westmont for classes and will fill a current vacancy, and we have no other concerns.
And the parking is more than adequate?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Okay, let us start with Commissioner Thomas, if you would, please.
I mean, went over there, it looks custom-made, like you said, you know. Welcome and good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes, I feel the same way. Just out of curiosity, since the name is on our agenda, who is Lou Prano?
Lou is the owner of the property that we're leasing from. We have a
Oh, I
signed
see. So
lease.
he owns the strip mall?
Yes,
I got it.
exactly.
Okay, I wasn't clear on that
Sorry
from
about
reading this. Okay, and so you two are the principals of
We're
the
the owners.
business itself? Got it. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Commissioner Anton?
Good presentation, fabulous, good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Van Buren?
You know that you are asking to be in a B2 business zone, and you are not a revenue-producing function. Are you going to be selling anything, any of the accessories or anything?
Yes, that room you can see on there, the merchandise room, we actually have a whole room that's going to be selling merchandise. And if we had, let's say we'll be having between 100 and 200 students in our studio. And let's say each student spent $30 a month, which is pretty low for a woman, but we'll say $30 a month. So if we had 100 women, we'll go low, they each spend $30 a month, which is low. That's $3,000 that we would be bringing in a month in merchandising. We're actually working with somebody who specializes in merchandising, so we're really planning on that being a big part of our business too.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fidesco?
I think it was a great presentation.
Thank you.
I think it definitely fits that location, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be rather successful in selling your merchandise because specialty-type businesses like yours, you know, as far as the training and everything, people want specific type items. I know that. And they'll be buying it from you, I'm sure. So I know that there'll be some tax revenue from the business, so good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fleet?
Nice presentation. Question on any signage on the windows? What do you plan?
You know, we basically will not be covering the windows and signage or whatever. We'll have the little signage that's allowed above the space, and there might be something small in terms of a decal or something, but nothing major.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, one of my questions would have been parking, but I'm assured my staff that parking is more than adequate. The other question of which I've been made aware of is perhaps music levels for when you're having your classes,
Absolutely.
whether you're going to be disturbing other tenants next to you.
Right. We're very cognizant of it. The studio that we used to work at, we were made very well aware of music levels and not disrupting other tenants. I'm in commercial real estate, so I fully understand quiet enjoyment of your space. So we're very cognizant of that. We will not be playing bass very loudly. A lot of our music is more meditative anyway, so.
That's what I would presume,
Yeah.
being yoga, that
Yeah.
is more soothing rather than disruptive.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further comments? Okay, since we have a request for a special use, we need a reading of the findings of fact for a special use.
Criteria number 1, the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the special use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. The proposed fitness studio will not create any adverse impacts upon businesses within the shopping plaza and will not impact the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare. Criteria number 2, that the special use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. The proposed fitness studio will not result in adverse noise, light, hours of operation, vibration, or other adverse impacts upon neighboring properties. Adequate parking will be available and class sizes will be limited. Criteria number 3, the establishment of the special use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. Surrounding properties are fully developed and this use will occupy an existing tenant space. Criteria number 4, that adequate utilities, access ways, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided. The property is already served by all necessary utilities, drainage, and parking, and no new improvements or expansions are being proposed. Criteria number 5, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. Class sizes will be limited, therefore reducing any traffic congestion concerns. Adequate parking exists on site. Adequate means of ingress and egress exist. Criteria number 6, that the special use shall in all other aspects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it's located, except as such regulations may in each instance be modified by the village board pursuant to the recommendation of the Plan Commission. The proposed use and building conforms to all village codes and no variances or other unique approvals are needed. Criteria number 7, the proposed use meets the special conditions of Special Condition 2 of the Westmont zoning ordinance. Adequate parking exists on site, class sizes will be small, thereby minimizing any concerns over traffic congestion. The use will pose no danger to pedestrian safety.
If you agree with these findings, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement, therefore the findings of fact for a special use are hereby approved and adopted. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Planning and zoning item 13024. Item A, a special use permit request to operate a fitness studio in the B2 General Business District.
So moved.
Second?
That was you, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Fidesco, seconded by Commissioner Van Buren. Question on the motion? A roll call, please.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard.
Yes. Okay, ladies, you have our recommendation for approval, and staff can tell you when you'll go before the village board of trustees.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll revert back to our normal schedule. Planning and zoning item 13022. Bradford Real Estate regarding the property located at 150 West 63rd Street for the following. A zoning code variance request to increase the number of allowable signs from 1 to 3 to allow 2 wall signs and 1 ground sign. B, special use permit request to operate temporary open-air sidewalk or tent sales in the C1 Commercial Business District. Item C, preliminary plat of subdivision to consolidate 2 parcels into 1. Item D, site and landscaping plan approval to construct a grocery store of approximately 71,300 square feet in the C1 Commercial Business District. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm Steve Pagnotta from the Bradford Companies. I'm going to coordinate our presentation tonight. We have a series of professionals that are going to address a variety of different development issues. Bradford's a 25-year-old company. It's developed about 60 projects, primarily in the Chicagoland marketplace, about 10 million square feet. And if approved by the village, this would be our 7th Mariano's that we would be developing in Chicago. We've completed 4 Mariano stores in Chicago, first one in Vernon Hills. We opened one in Palatine, Harwood Heights, Illinois, and Frankfurt. In addition, we have 2 under construction, one not too far from here in Wheaton and one in Lake Zurich. So just to give you a feel for the store, we have a representative from Mariano's here tonight, which could also address the concept and what Mariano's is about. But I thought we'd start with our civil engineer, start to address our preliminary plat as well as the site plan, and then we'll move into landscape architecture, then building architecture, and then probably open it up to questions. Drew?
Good evening. My name is Drew Walker with Kimley Horn. We're the civil engineering consultant on the project. This is the projector. Just to start out here, this is the plat of subdivision. I'll show you that the property will be split into 2 lots. You'll have an access easement to serve Lot 2 on the south here. We also have an underground detention easement. It's pretty straightforward. Look on the site plan here. Site plan. So we have a approximately 71,000 square foot grocery store on a 9.5 acre site. There's 542 parking spaces. Give you an idea of the site circulation. I have this angled so you can see it. North is in this direction here. So 63rd Street bounds the property on the south. We've got internal circulation. We've tried to separate your truck traffic, which will go behind the store and has a truck turnaround in the rear here, so that it doesn't have to intermingle with the pedestrian and vehicular traffic here, located just south of the grocery. 2 main parking fields, and additionally we have pedestrian access all the way to the right-of-way of 63rd Street through a nice landscaped median here. Moving on to, do you have the grading exhibit? I brought that as well, just to give you guys an idea of what's going on. Basically, we'll be trying to send as much drainage to bioswales that are located here at the south of the site and in some landscape areas before the stormwater makes its way to, again here, the bioswale in this area here, before the water makes its way to an underground storage facility that would meet the town's detention requirements. And then lastly, your utilities. The site is being served an existing water service along the eastern boundary. And additionally, there's the existing sewer service here that would serve the property. And like I said, stormwater would be managed through an underground detention facility located under the main parking field here.
Our next presentation is on landscaping. Ellen, do you have exhibit?
Hi, my name is Ellen Schmidt. I'm with the Lakota Group. We're the landscape architects on this project. Just to start, we have provided foundation plantings along the facility here, and the facade as well. Along with foundation plantings, we are meeting the parking lot tree requirements, planting trees within the island, as well as the interior of requirements. We're also providing parking lot screening around the exterior of the parking lot, including the southern side, which will be more heavily screened with a large berm, some evergreen trees. And along the roadway, we are providing the required parkway trees. And as was mentioned in the civil plans, we're providing a bioswale here, and those will be planted heavily with native vegetation. And the existing site has quite a few trees on it now, which we are planning to remove all trees. Many of them are poor quality, undesirable species, and our plan does meet the tree replacement requirements listed by the village. And we also are meeting the general overall open space tree planting requirements for the village. Just as a little close-up, we have the bioswale here, which is just east of the grocery store, and an outdoor seating area that is yet to be determined. This will be further developed as we move forward with the project, but this will be a nice amenity that will come out of the grocery store here.
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate, to the extent that you guys have questions regarding civil engineering or landscaping, to bring it up now before we move on to architecture and other things? I realize we went through some of that pretty quickly. So should we start with civil engineering to the extent there are questions and move into
One second.
landscaping?
I'll query the board members. Anybody feel that you need any explanation so far as to what we've seen?
No explanation. I do have a question.
No, please, continue with the presentation.
All right, our next presentation is by Peter Theodore. We're going to address the architecture of the building. Turn it over to you, Peter.
Good evening. My name is Peter Theodore. I'm the architect for the Marianos building. What I'd like to do for the audience is just quickly show them the rendering.
We have, if I may interrupt, we have adequate drawings.
Okay.
Why don't you put those up here so the audience can see them?
Perfect.
Thank you.
This is a pretty exciting project, and it's exciting from many different vantage points. When you look at this building and you compare it to other retail architecture, I think something becomes apparent immediately. When you consider retail architecture and the use of glass, it's rather limited. Most retailers do not give up floor area to glass. Bob Mariano's concept of architecture and glass and building function all relate. So when you look at this architecture and you ask yourself, is it of what style? How does the building work? Everything that you see from the rotunda to the center of the glass is all about the great outdoors coming in and the light and ambience spilling out, welcoming the pedestrians. The rotunda is an extension of the landscaping from the standpoint that it has its own landscaping oasis within the store. You're actually encouraged, unlike other food stores, to sit down, sample the foods, whether it's focaccia bread, gelato, delicatessens. There's a litany of foods that are surrounding this area where you're encouraged to stay, mingle with friends, socialize, and enjoy the atmosphere. When we think of vestibules in a grocery store or any retail store, we think of a transitional space purely utilitarian to serve a function. That's not Bob's concept. From the minute you enter into the store from the vestibule opens up into the produce aisle. So the vestibule actually becomes part of the store. So when we look at the glass, virtually the whole front of the store is given up to glass so that the functions behind those walls are something that become alive and interactive. Real estate is so valuable to retailers that they don't give up that area, but to Bob, it's part of the whole function of the store. So the architecture relates on a one-on-one basis, and as you travel around the building, high windows let light into above the fixtures, there's articulation on all four walls, and it's a complete masonry building. So it's four-sided architecture, everything has a reason, and it's reflective of how the store operates. Quality is indicative of every aspect of the store. Bob goes through a truckload of oranges, and I'm not kidding when I say this. If you've ever had his orange juice in the store, you understand that quality is paramount to his success. It's those little things such as having your steak prepared while you shop the store. It's the prepared breads, it's the bakery, it's the orange juice, it's the quality. I mean, how many stores can you go to where the produce is constantly changing seasonally? You can get leches, you can get 4 different types of mangoes. There's so many things that are going on in the store. It makes a lot of sense why every store that is open, there's one common thing you'll hear when you listen to the people. We love the shopping experience. Shopping has become dull, but if I can equate this to Apple and the iPhone, this concept has revolutionized the food industry. I've been doing it for about 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this. But once you shop this store, you understand that having one in your town creates a special destiny. And I'm very proud to be here tonight. I think that when you look at the building and the quality and all the things that it brings to the community, it's a great asset. The one last issue I wanted to address before I sat down was signage. We're asking for an additional sign on our east elevation, and it's important to us that as sight lines and the building evolves and a way of demonstrating our wares, sort of like Starbucks has their puck, Mariano's has their identity. The identity on the wall sign is vital to our success. But what's unique about this wall sign, and again, this is a major deviation from most retailers, is Bob does individual pin set letters. They're not internally illuminated. They're lit by halogen lamps. They're set on a rippled aluminum background, and everything about the sign, from the logo to the leaf to the way it's articulated, is unique and tasteful. So we think that the sign is consistent with our logo and identity. We think that we do it better than anybody, and we hope that you agree that the size, the location, and the necessity to have it are warranted, and that's why we asked for it. With that, I will conclude my presentation, and I'm here to answer questions. Thank you.
Clarification, one thing. You said the signage on the side of the building?
On the east elevation, we have it incorrectly shown on the west elevation.
That's what I was going to ask you.
And it will be on the east elevation. And it shows up correctly on the perspective.
All right. I do have one comment, if I may. On these, the drawings we've got, the 4 sheets, the engineering drawings. On the back end, we've got a street lighting, parking lot lighting drawing.
Okay,
It looks like your building is turned 90 degrees clockwise.
so let me bring up the exhibit.
North?
Is it the same exhibit, Mr. Chairman? Or you have something different?
That's correct. No, that's the one.
Okay,
It looks like your glass enclosure is on the southwest corner, and, I mean, the north.
yeah, the lighting, in terms of where the poles are identical, the building changed. That's an earlier version of the site plan. So the building is as per we presented it. Just disregard the location of the building in that plan.
According to these engineering drawings we have.
Yeah, we'll modify that accordingly.
Okay. No, just so we're all speaking on the same page.
I think we have another. That's the correct orientation of the building as presented. So we'll
Okay.
modify the lighting exhibit for our next presentation.
I want you to build it in the right way.
We'll try.
Okay, please, go ahead.
That concludes the presentation. As I mentioned earlier, we have people available to the extent there are questions regarding the Mariano's operation. There's someone from Mariano's. If there's questions regarding any traffic, we have a consultant there, as well as civil engineering, landscaping, and then representatives from Bradford. So that concludes our presentation.
All right, fine. What I intend to do then is I will open this to the public comment, and as each person brings up their concerns for or against, then you can satisfy their concerns.
Yeah.
Okay, will anybody speak on this issue? If so, please come up and announce your name.
Hi, my name's Joe Kumkuski. My father and I have owned and operated Westbrook Market on 10 West 63rd Street for approximately 10 years, about 9.5 years now. You can imagine our concern with the idea of bringing a grocery store directly next to our grocery store. This has been something that's really seemed to trickle along, and it really hasn't been out in the open. We've been asking about it, talking about it, trying to find out any information we could, and we've been told that, you know, they're kicking tires, they're just looking, nothing's really happening yet, and we're coming to find out more and more now that this is being pushed forward close to final stages, and we're very concerned about that. I'd like to tell you a little bit about us. I hope you know already, but we own and operate a 63,000 square foot store. We're one of the largest independents around as a single independent, not a chain, but just a one store operation. We work hard. Our employees work hard. We employ approximately 65 employees in the store. Probably 55 around that would be full-time plus overtime. So where other stores might employ 120, 200 employees, 150, we have overtime for our employees so that they don't have to have a part-time job here, you know, from 8 to 12 and go to another part-time job later in the evening. The products we carry, many are traditional, but we also carry a lot of ethnic products and for ethnic groups that we have here in the community and in surrounding communities. We also bring people in from surrounding communities. I want to just give you a little bit of overview about us so you understand what we are, and I know I've seen many of you, so I know you know the store well. My father's concern is, why are we looking for a grocery store at this site? We've heard before about a Lowe's. We've heard all the things about, you know, souring economy and things like that, where Lowe's and Home Depot and other places kind of shied away from it. But our concern still is, if we're trying to nurture this area, and they're talking about a TIF benefit for this area, and you're trying to nurture this area, putting a grocery store, 71,000 square feet next to a 63,000 square foot store, you know, and giving them the financial advantage, giving them it's an edge. You're giving them that edge is even more for a guy like my father and I to come up against. Just looking for a couple other things here. That's a few of the things I had to say.
Okay, thank you very much. You care to rebuttal that?
Well, this is a presentation regarding planning and the aesthetics of the building, but I will make one comment. Mariano's, as mentioned earlier, is a regional concept that it will draw in terms of a ring of a much broader area. So to the extent that this is a local grocer and services the community at large, the Mariano's will in fact bring customers from a greater area. And typically, people like to experience other kinds of grocers. It's no different when you go look at a car or a home improvement store. If there's competition there, people tend to cross shop. So I think potentially it could be an advantage, but that's my opinion as it relates to the retailing aspect of it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else from the public, please?
I would like to comment again on it. one of the things that they said was they were very excited about this property and very excited to get into it. You know, this is a zoning and boarding meeting. I heard something about, you know, incorrect designs, incorrect plans up here. I mean, look at the crew they brought along here. I mean, it's me and my dad here. You're bringing a crew of architects and whatever else, and they're not even putting up the proper drawings in the store. They're asking for a sign that was said, the sign is, what is this quote here? Vital to our success. Come on. I mean, you know, a sign is not vital to anyone's success, not a third sign. You know what I mean? This is, you know, this is just not, it's not ethically right with the business also to have a grocery store directly next to a store that's been there for almost 10 years and has been you know, a good part of Westmont. So.
Okay, thank you, sir. Please, anybody else from the public?
Hello, my name is Mary Gabriel, a resident of Westmont. My concern about the potential additions of Mariano's to Westmont is the traffic. On 63rd Street, if you're trying to get out of the Walgreens or the UPS and that, it's very hard to get across 63rd Street. And in the presentation, they mentioned they're going to have 542 parking spaces. How is the village going to handle that additional traffic on 63rd Street, you know, to make it, to avoid, you know, additional congestion, potential accidents and everything? You've got the Westmont yard there, you've got a park there with the skateboarders and that. So you have a lot of children in the community there, and I'm just concerned for a traffic standpoint, being able to get in and out of the Mariano site as well as the other sites nearby.
Mr. Chairman, happy to address that. We have a consultant here that will address traffic. We raced through the civil engineering presentation, but there is a new traffic control proposed at the access point. But Bill, if you could address it.
Good evening. My name is William Woodward. I'm a traffic engineer with KLOA out of Rosemont. We conducted the traffic study for this development. We've worked very close with the village and both the DuPage County Division of Transportation, who has jurisdiction over 63rd Street. As part of, in conjunction with the development at the access point for the Marianos, we intend to signalize that intersection, providing a left turn lane for both the east and westbound directions on 63rd Street. So 63rd Street will provide a westbound left turn lane and an eastbound left turn lane at that intersection. In addition, a westbound right turn lane on 63rd Street will be provided, which will remove the right turning traffic that wants to go into the Mariano site from the westbound through traffic on 63rd. In addition to all that, we will be providing a center lane on 63rd Street, which will, based on the geometry and how it lays out, there will be a center lane from the access point of the Marianos to the east, to the easterly drive of the shopping center to the east. That center lane will be striped as a continuous two-way left turn lane, which will then remove those turning movements from the through traffic on 63rd Street that want to either access East Suffield Court or the two access drives serving the retail development to the north.
So there will be a fifth lane of traffic then?
That's correct. Okay. Well, a fifth lane, but
a fifth lane.
But for turning movements, not as a through
okay.
movement. Yes.
I did have one question then. When we had this all set up for the Lowe's, and the traffic was all set up with the traffic study, the ingress and egress of the condominiums, I forget the name of them over there.
Suffield Gardens.
You're going to line up with your driveway so that traffic
correct.
signal is going to handle both driveways.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's going to align with West Suffield Court, which serves that community.
Okay, very good.
There was also discussion back in the Lowe's days of linking to the shopping center directly to your east, the one that has the market in it now, for an internal passageway. Has that been looked at, discussed, or thrown out, or anything?
Can I address that briefly?
Yes.
That would require the cooperation of the center owner to the east, who was not overly cooperative during initial discussions when Lowe's approached him about that.
I remember that.
So it will be a condition of the plat of subdivision that to the extent the neighboring development is neighboring properties redevelopment, that they have to use reasonable efforts to install a cross-access easement. That's going to require still some cooperation from the adjacent development and agreement on the location, and we'll have to work on the phrasing of that. But that is the goal of the village, and that's something that's on every plat for a piece of property that's adjacent to another significant commercial piece to allow that cross-access.
Thank you, John. I think he answered for you.
Okay, Mr. Pagnotta, now, do you have any other people to give any other testimony, like traffic? I thought you said you were done with your presentation. Have your people, whatever you're going to present, and then we'll have the public.
We've
pick it
completed our
apart,
presentation. Yes, we've completed it. So
Okay,
to the
thank
extent
you.
there are additional questions, we're here to answer.
Okay. Anybody else from the public, please? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
You know, I still want to ask, I'm sorry, I just want to comment again. So, you know, is this board, is this committee aware that this traffic light was supposed to be put in, or is this something, so you're aware of it, it's just they didn't present it again? So it's something you know about, but it's not something they presented?
No, that's.
Presented in our
Presented in our
packets.
packets here.
All right. Okay, it should be for everybody to know about those, so they should address a lot,
Why
you
we
know,
brought
that also,
this
that's a
up.
big deal, so. That's the question.
Yes, miss? No? Please come on up. The home audience cannot hear you unless,
Okay, my name's Ray Ann Fitch. I'm a transplant from Arlington Heights. So I just wanted to
welcome
say.
to Westmont.
Thanks. Well, I haven't actually found a house here yet, but Mariano's was a great asset to Arlington Heights. We just love it there, and the community just loves, I mean, you always run into people that you know there. It's just a great, beautiful store, and it was just a great thing for the town. So I just wanted to.
May I ask how did you come to be here this evening?
We
Live
are
here, or-
part of a church in Westmont, and my husband works in Lombard at Northern Seminary, so it's much closer.
Maybe you'll move here.
We will.
Nice town.
We're going to find a house someday.
All right, I don't think you have to rebuttal that, do you, Steve? Anybody, any further public comment whatsoever? Seeing nobody rising to the occasion, I'll close the public comment.
I did want to mention that we have a letter from Jim Devine, who owns Westmont Village Shopping Center to the east, and I've passed out copies for each of you along.
This is the one here.
Yeah, you know, that was sent in March and not in response to a public hearing, so I don't think was submitted with the intention that it be part of a public hearing record. Unless it was recently recirculated. It was,
A
okay.
representative from Mid-America handed it to us.
Fair enough.
In addition to that, Chairman Richard, we had a phone call from a resident of the Ashford subdivision earlier today, called in support of the Mariano's project after reading about it in the newspaper today.
Do we have a name and an address?
I do not have an address other than the subdivision name. The name is, her name, the caller is Dolores Woods.
Okay, thank you. Any further staff comment? Hearing none? Okay, let's start with Commissioner Fleet, if you would, please.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? Since that letter was submitted specifically.
Shall I read it?
You don't have to read it, just make it part of the record.
Okay,
Or you can read it if you.
yeah. This is a letter from Newcastle Properties dated March 25, 2013, addressed to the village manager, Ronald Searle. Dear Mr. Searle, we were recently advised by the village's council that the village board has authorized the preparation of a purchase and sale contract for the sale of the vacant 63rd Street acreage to Bradford Commercial Real Estate Company for the development of a Mariano's grocery store. As you know, we, doing business as Sidcor Westmont Associates, are the owners of the Westmont Village Shopping Center, which center is contiguous to this vacant property. Please be advised that if the sale transaction is consummated and the Mariano's opens for business on that parcel, the village's conduct will have caused us to suffer severe adverse economic consequences. We don't believe the village is acting in the best interest of its local business owners and operators by selling this village-owned land for the development of a grocery store that will compete directly with the existing grocer, the largest anchor tenant in our center. Please accept this letter as our formal notice to the village that we intend to seek reimbursement from the village for any and all damages we sustain as a result of the village's actions. Yours very truly, sincerely, J.D. Devine. Do we need a motion on that? Okay. The letter will so be entered. Now, if we may, Roy, Commissioner Fleet?
I'm sorry, so with that said, so this is strictly just for zoning and planning, correct? That's all this is getting approval for?
What we are doing this evening is what is published. The purview of this board is a zoning code variance request to increase the number of allowable signs from 1 to 3. Item B, a special use permit request to operate a temporary open-air sidewalk or tent sale in the C1 Commercial Business District. Item C, preliminary plat of subdivision to consolidate 2 parcels into 1. D, site and landscaping plan approval to construct a grocery store of approximately 71,300 square feet in the C1 Commercial Business District. That is all we are.
Shouldn't the approval go through for the stoplight before the rest of that goes?
No, that's part of the engineering study that they have to meet the village standards. John, could you address
So
that?
anyone can get a stoplight put on if they want it, or?
Well, no. They have to prove to us that there's sufficient means of getting in and getting out of the center. And they've proposed that through a traffic light, but that street's under the jurisdiction of the DuPage County Department of Transportation, DUDOT. So they have to go to DuPage to get a permit to do the intersection and roadway improvements. That's not controlled by the Village of Westmont.
Okay.
But
It just seems like you should, like they should have that approval before you would give the approval. It strikes me, I don't know. I mean, if they go in there and they don't have access, you're gonna have a lot of, maybe you'd have too much traffic, you'd have problems getting in and out of apartments. I don't know, just, that doesn't make sense to me that
If
would
I'm
go
not
that way.
mistaken, when we had Lowe's before us with the site and landscaping plan and everything approved, the traffic light and the striping of the street and the widening of the street, everything was already approved by the county.
no, it was not. The zoning
I thought it
approval
was.
came first, and I will tell you, in most developments of this scope, any sort of highway improvements come down the line after zoning is approved. It's a more complicated and slower process to get IDOT approvals or DUDOT approvals. So any final engineering and building permit approvals, if the village were to approve this, would be contingent upon DUDOT approval of the intersection improvements.
All right,
You could not have one without the other.
but you do. He just said that you don't have approval yet, right? This is gonna come first and the other one will come later.
Permits won't be issued until after that, the approval of DuPage County Transportation. That's it. I mean, if they say they won't put a light there, then permits won't be issued, so the project won't proceed.
I see.
So,
We function as a recommending body in the public hearing arm also. So this is the public hearing where people can come and comment, and it makes it
Well, there's been
sort
no
of
news of
one-stop.
this. I had to go to the newspapers to get it out there to let people know about it. There's been no news of this. I've been talking to Shannon Malik. She's been telling me that nothing's been going on. It's been kicking tires. I spoke to Jill Ziegler. Same thing. She passed it around. This has not been grounded.
This was published in the, I know the Westmont Progress over 2 months ago.
Well,
For
I've
the
been
first-
talking
for the first
to
time.
them about it, and, it seems like.
And you also should have, since you're within the, 250-foot radius?
That goes to owners. Owners within 250 feet
Okay,
get
then
mailed
Mr.
notice.
Devine should have received it and made everybody aware of it. Now, whether he did or not, I do not know.
All right.
Well, he must have been aware of it in March because he wrote the letter.
He was.
Right.
Well, I understood that it didn't happen until April, that you guys were aware of it. I've got something saying that you guys started to talk to him in April, so I don't know how he knew about it in March, so.
Well, he wrote the
I don't
letter
know.
and dated it March 25th, 2013.
That's what I'm saying. I've got written notification from you guys that it started in April. So how did he know about it in March if the process just began in April? I don't know.
Well,
that
he would be your contact, not ours. I don't know.
No, but I'm saying your contact here said that that your process started in April. And you're telling me that it
Let's
started in
be
March.
clear, don't say you speaking as this board per se. This board, the Planning and Zoning Board, heard about this was when we received our packet for our August meeting. That is the very first that we.
And that was last week.
And that was last
So you're
month.
going through this,
Last
I mean,
month.
is
Last month.
this is normal to go through a project this big and fly
That's
through it
why
like
we.
this?
That's why we have village staff.
Okay.
They
All right, that's good
handle all
enough for me
this.
then. That's very good.
All right, let's go back to Roy. I'm sorry for all the interruptions.
A question for, on the signs and going, so you're gonna you'll move the sign from the west wall to the east wall,
That's correct.
and then there'll be one on the south wall, and then the monument sign. Could you
Correct.
tell me about the lighting and how the signs will be lit, or how will they present themselves in the evening, and how
Sure.
long will they be on?
Give me one of those.
I don't know if this all really apparent in your packet. Those three little dots represent halogen lights. And in comparison to the way the other food market's lit, which is internally illuminated, this is much dimmer. It is specific to the letters. The letters are pin set. So in many respects, it's less illuminated than your typical retail signs. And it's part of keeping in character with the overall architecture.
It's lit up more like a painting or a piece of artwork than each individual.
And will these basically be on, including the monument sign, basically be on during typical hours of operation?
Yes.
What you're claiming? Okay. Further questions?
Commissioner Fidesco?
I do want to continue on the signs and the lighting. The monument sign, that does not have the same type of lighting displayed there. Is that going to be some sort of spotlighting from the ground? Okay.
The monument sign is a low ground type of sign which will be uplit.
Okay.
So again, no internal illumination, softly lit with directional lighting on the sign only.
Okay, so that's my question on the sign. My next question is regarding the actual parcel itself. I was on the village board at the time this property was purchased, and at that time, there is still wetlands on the parcel. And you're going to mitigate those wetlands. You're not going to replace them. You're going to mitigate that by placing underground storage.
No, the underground storage is regarding detention.
Detention, okay,
It's
but
separate. As it relates to the wetlands, and I'll have our civil engineer address it, I believe it's going, the fees being paid in lieu out of bank.
Okay.
Good evening, and my name's Andy Heinen. I'm with Kimley Horn Associates, civil engineer, working with Drew also. In regards to the wetlands, we are working with DuPage County Economic Development Planning. We've had a pre-application meeting with them several months ago. We've made our initial submittal and received some feedback and gotten positive feedback from DuPage County. There are about 5 comments that we're currently addressing. So we are working with DuPage County. We are going to be impacting the wetlands. We will be mitigating for them at a 1.5 to 1 ratio.
Okay.
Andy, can you just address what the purpose of vault is and stormwater comparing that to wetlands?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are proposing underground detention system. What that's providing is the required stormwater management for the sites based on Village of Westmont and DuPage County stormwater management ordinance. There are also additional depressional areas on site, and we're compensating for that at a 1-to-1 ratio for filling in those depressional areas. So not only are we providing the required detention, we're also providing additional compensatory storage for the depressional areas in sight, and that's going to be contained in an underground detention system.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
maybe you should mention where it's going to be released into and release rates in case residents are concerned where the water is going to go.
Sure.
When it leaves the underground detention.
So we're going to be following existing conditions. The site generally drains from the north to the south to 63rd Street. Thank you. So the underground detention system chamber is proposed towards the south end of the site, kind of in the middle. And the site drains essentially from the north to the south to the detention system. There's an outlet structure from the detention system that's conveyed to an existing storm sewer on 63rd Street. And that storm sewer on 63rd Street is designed and has the capacity to handle the allowable release from the detention system into the existing system.
And as far as the detention system and the parking lot itself, will there, when you designed it, will there be ever an occasion that the parking lot itself will store any water, or is that large enough of a basin that you're going to?
No, it's a large enough of a basin. We don't want to provide stormwater management or stormwater detention in the parking lot.
Okay.
Just because, we don't want to.
So even in
collecting
that
water.
severe storm, you're not going to have any issues. It'll all go into the underground storage.
Yeah, we're designing for what we call a 100-year rainfall intensity. So that detention system is designed for that event. There's going to be some ponding in the parking lot, but we're limiting that to no more than a foot and meeting ordinance on that.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make one last comment about the store itself. I've been to the one in Elmhurst, and I think this design is much better. That must have been earlier on in the evolution.
That was just a different concept. The majority of the stores are similar to this, but that's a different concept.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Different architect.
Okay.
Commissioner Van Buren?
On the parking, it seems to me I read that the size of the parking spaces are substandard by our, so that is that's going to, go ahead.
It would be a waiver from the village board to go to about 9 by 19 rather than 10 by 20. So, and we'd allow for some overhang into the landscape area.
The other thing is on the detention, does that end up in muddy waters, the retention across 63rd?
The route.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, this storm sewer is sized for the allowable release from the site. Where it does flow on 63rd Street is west to, I forget the name of the.
Muddy water detention across?
I believe so, yeah.
And that has the capacity to hold this?
Well, what we're doing is we're providing the
You're
capacity
storing
for
it.
our site.
Right.
So we're restricted in regards to how much water we can release from our site to the system. So we're not going to be affecting downstream properties.
Okay, thank
The
you.
release will not be any greater than it is today.
That's correct.
And then there was one other thing that I saw in the, windows came up as to whether you were going to have any windows. Was that on the north elevation? 'Cause we show none.
The windows and the location, there's an exhibit, I think.
It's along the rear elevation, and we didn't see the necessity to have windows there because that's our back of house. We stock up against those walls, and as I said initially, there's quite a bit of articulation along that wall as it sits today.
The exhibit represented. Peter, you have the exhibit?
Yes.
Okay, can you just identify where the glass is?
This is the rear wall.
Right, that's north, yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Ed.
Okay, Ms. Nicole? Kim? If you would you care to add anything to the stormwater as flow and detention amounts and whether they meet our standards?
It meets our standards. It's 0.1 CFS per acre, so that's less than what's coming off the site already. So that's going into the 63rd Street storm sewer system. As I mentioned, and it does go down to St. Joseph's Creek over by Muddy Waters Ponds, but it will be coming off at a lower release rate than it is right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Anton?
Were we going to hear from the owner or owner rep from, were we going to have?
Mr. Devine from,
Yeah.
or?
No?
For Mariano's.
For Mariano's, yeah.
Mariano's?
We have a representative here from Mariano's to the extent there are specific questions regarding the
Okay,
operation.
all right, I thought maybe the owner was going to give a pitch or something. Okay, I have a question. Do you own this property already?
We are the contract purchases of 2 parcels.
Okay, your contract person, okay. Okay, let me see here. So, when I'm reading, this fits our comprehensive plan that we've worked on for a long time. I have some simple questions, like for instance, I like the way you've got the access coming around for the trucks around the back of the building, something reasonable, and then people usually don't do that. But what about when they turn around here, the fencing in the back with lights? There's, some residential areas back there. Would there be a tall enough fence, obviously?
As it relates to the perimeter treatment, Bill could address that.
I mean, these prints are preliminary then? You're gonna come back and?
No, in terms of what's there, we can address it right now.
Are you talking about
I see a small fence across that north section.
That little area where the truck turnaround is, what's the perimeter treatment?
There's a retaining wall.
That's a retaining wall, that dark line?
So is the
Retaining wall and
grade
landscaping.
lower at that point?
It is.
Okay.
So the truck lights wouldn't shine past that retaining wall?
I'm not sure. Not following it.
I mean, I think to the east doesn't matter, there's a building, obviously a UPS.
Yeah, as Bill mentioned, this is a retaining wall, small retaining wall. I think it's about 2 feet in height. The existing grade of the self-storage facility to the north of us is quite a bit lower. It's about 5 or 6 feet lower than,
Right.
than our
Then
proposed.
then there's some condos or residential
They're on the other side.
to that back there?
They're north of that
they're north of
storage
that?
facility.
Okay.
Yeah, directly north is the storage.
That's all industrial, okay, then,
Yeah,
okay,
it's all
gotcha.
industrial.
How about idling, when you have deliveries, what will your times be for deliveries? How long
The
will?
representative from Rowdy to address that.
So, my name is Max Dickman with Roundy Supermarkets, the parent of Mariano's, 875 East Wisconsin Avenue in Milwaukee. The question regarding deliveries is, generally our deliveries come early in the morning, especially in an area like this where there's not residential nearby. Our goal is to be in by 5 and out by 7 with our semi-trucks. Again, it's just keeping them out of traffic is kind of our goal there. With regard to other deliveries that we don't control, what we call direct service deliveries, your bread truck, soda, things like that, those will usually arrive in the morning after that 7 o'clock window, between 7 and, say, noon, on a fairly regular basis. But if there were municipal ordinances, we certainly could comply with that, but given the lack of residential, early morning seems to be the best fit.
I have a question about, where's the nearest Roundy's warehouse that you'll be getting?
We have 2 that are, the closest one is in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and that's our commissary. That's where we prepare a lot of our foods, ice cream, things like that. But our distribution warehouse is in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, so they are coming a little bit of a distance, which is Oconomowoc's between Milwaukee and Madison.
So then I assume you wouldn't have regular trucks coming in, sitting in the parking lot in the front idling?
No, we actually, that's, even if it's our trucks or anyone's trucks, we have a no idling policy. So any of our trucks that come to drop off at the facility are technically, we don't allow them to sit and idle. They have to turn their trucks off.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And another question I have is about photometrics. For those of us who don't know what photometrics are, or the lighting on this project, how bright is?
In that packet,
Yeah, in the back here, it's up. No, you're at 0 at the edge. You're at a trip.
At the property lines, it'll be 0, and the average foot candle is around between 5 and 6 foot candles.
And brighter by the store, obviously.
Correct.
Just to simplify a little bit, a moonlit night can be about 2 foot candles.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. That's all I have, Chairman. can ask that. How, okay, now, on the hours of operation then, one more thing on the lights. Will you go to a almost complete darkness or a building lights only after a certain amount of time?
I believe it's an hour after store's closed. There'll be some safety lights on, so the majority of the lights will go off, but there'll be
And the same thing for?
a few that'll be on for safety.
Okay.
The rear of the building and the front and the parking lot.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, Commissioner Pills?
Are you okay, sir?
I get choked up every time I talk to you.
You want to choke him every time you talk to him? Excellent, so fun.
I feel the love.
Awkward.
Perhaps the representative for Roundy's Mariano's? Forecast for how many Mariano's in the Chicagoland, greater Chicagoland area you're looking at? over
We
the
don't
next-
have an exact forecast. I mean, our goal is really to develop a network of stores over the next, 5 years or so, where we're trying to build out about 5 to 6 per year. So we're sort of
Saturate
on that
based on
pace.
some formula that you have based on.
Yeah, correct. Just to, just to try to locate stores in their own market areas that, can compete into, that far enough away that that they're not taking away sales from each other, but close enough together that, we can be that neighborhood shop. So we don't have a set
How many
number.
are open now? We heard how many this gentleman's
We have
built.
11 open today. We'll have 13 by the end of the year. Another 5 planned for 2014.
Projected opening for this store, if it goes well?
We don't have a projected opening yet. Obviously, there's a lot of things that have to go into it, but it would be sometime after 2014 for sure.
And the nearest Mariano's to this location?
I haven't looked on a map, but I'm guessing it's Wheaton, correct. And that Wheaton store is going to be on the corner of Roosevelt and between Naperville and Main Street, and that store will open up towards the end of October of this year.
I believe you were answering the truck traffic question. So as they queue up this way, it's hard for me, do you post idling regulations and things like that? Because it does look tight back there.
It does. Well, there are two things that happen. The first is that the most common truck that's going to be there, and we might have 2 loads on some days, no loads on others, but the trucks, we are a self-supplied grocery retailer, so our trucks follow our policies when they're at our store. So anytime you see a roundy semi there, they know that they're not allowed to idle, and that's part of their policy as drivers. So that will prevent that idling. Other than that, we schedule deliveries with our direct service deliveries, so the store schedules them so that they're not stacked all on top of each other. And most of those trucks don't use the semi-docks. Some of them do, the Pepsi trucks do, and a couple others. But so we'll certainly schedule the ones that use our docks so they don't have to wait. There is enough of a staging area, and I don't have the plan up there, but they will be able to park probably along that back wall and drive towards the front door. There's a lift-up door for the bread truck, pizza trucks, things like that don't have those large of a volume, and they don't need the dock doors. And they shouldn't be idling when they're stopping and delivering either.
Okay. Hours for the store?
I think in your package it says 6 a.m. till midnight. More commonly, we've been running 6 a.m. till 11. But, the store hours really depend on the need in the given market, so we certainly like to request the 6 a.m. till midnight, and if we scale that back or even open at 6 a.m. and close at 11, that's probably more common for us.
And that would be 7 days a week?
Correct.
And then tied into the previous gentleman's comments then, so lighting would shut off about an hour or decrease about an hour after that, so
That's correct.
either midnight or 1 a.m., so still fairly late, but it would shut down at some point.
It is late, but, obviously it's important to us to have that zero at the lot line so that we're not having that light spillage. We do have, hoods over each of the light fixtures to, prevent the, lighting the sky as opposed to the parking field. So, but yes, that would be the case.
Great. Stormwater questions, please. Common practice today indicates that many businesses choose to have some above ground and some below ground. You've chosen to go 100% below ground, am I correct?
For the stormwater management, yes, but as mentioned in the presentation, we are incorporating bioswales on the site.
Could you define that simply for
Yeah,
the folks that are
absolutely.
watching at home?
Absolutely. So, per the DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance, we're required to provide what they call best management practices, BMPs. And a component of that is either rain gardens or bioswales. Essentially, a bioswale is a naturalized vegetated swale that has engineered soil so that when the water falls on the parking lot, it's directed towards these swales so that it can infiltrate back into the ground. The idea is that we want to recharge the groundwater rather than paving the whole thing, storing it, and then releasing it downstream. By providing bioswales and the water actually infiltrating back into the ground, you're alleviating the water going downstream and flooding downstream properties. So even though we are providing 100% of the required stormwater management underground, we are incorporating these bioswales to help the infiltration.
Thank you. Parking lot questions. First of all, snow removal and storage. This is a large parking lot. Looks like you've almost gone wall to wall on the property. What do you plan to do with the occasional 1 or 1.5 foot snow?
Yeah, the plan that we're going to do to deal with the snow is probably go more towards the perimeter of the lot and towards the plantings. It really is, we're going to look towards the areas that are least parked in order to put the snow on. And if we have an issue that the snow is at a capacity and it's affecting visibility and affecting people's ability to park, we do have the ability and have done it at other stores where we actually haul some snow off-site. So we're pretty comfortable that we're going to be okay there with snow. You know, maybe if it's really bad snow around the holidays, then that's the type of time we might have to do something a little bit different. But we think there's plenty of room to store snow.
I would assume coming out of Wisconsin, you've had some snow experience on
We do,
occasion.
yes, yeah. Not as dissimilar as here, but yeah, we've dealt with it once or twice.
Parking spots. So 542 is a large number. I understand that there was a revision to your plan from August to September to increase parking based on need analysis that you've had at other facilities that have opened already. I'm a little nervous about the undersized parking spots. I shop at Costco from time to time, and one of the things I like are the wide spots, and you've got, you know, that extra, it's not just a stripe, it's actually like an oval. That's not quite an oval, but
No,
it provides
I
a
know what
lot
you're
of
talking
space and less door dings, and you're going to have a lot of people with carts and things like that. So do you feel uncomfortable with those narrower
We
spots?
don't. I mean, normally our spots are either 9.5 or 9 feet. And we find that the bigger issue with spots is actually we call a tree-to-tree measurement. And that's really, if you look at the nose of one spot, the length of that spot, the drive lane, and then to the nose of the other spot, that really is what gives you that distance to be able to pull out and come in and center within a spot rather than having to drive back and forth and back and forth. And at 62 feet, which is what we have, we call tree-to-tree, you know, spot, drive lane spot, there's adequate ability to maneuver within a 9-foot stall. We're really comfortable with that. We
I
have gone
agree
as
that
low as
helps.
8.5 feet, which we don't really like to do, but we've done. And so we think 9 feet with the 62 tree-to-tree. If we were at 60, we'd want to be closer to 10, but at 62, we're pretty comfortable at a 9-foot stall.
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with the depth. It was the width
Right.
I was questioning more in that
Yeah,
case.
and without that depth, we wouldn't be, yeah, I understand when a car is parked in door dings, and certainly you hope that doesn't happen. We think people can get, if they have the depth, meaning the tree to tree, and they can turn in, we think that most customers can get centered in a spot well enough that it doesn't give you problems. It's when you don't have the depth and they're turning in and they're not in a spot straight, or, you know, they just can't get in right, that's when you find more of a problem. So we're comfortable with 9 feet of width, given that there's enough depth for them to get in straight in the stall.
And the shopping carts here are a little different than Costco. They're relatively small. You don't have the wider ones, and they're more vertical in format.
Question on the traffic signal. That's always, over the years, we've heard various groups come up, and some want a traffic signal, some people don't want a traffic signal. But we've always heard, since it's outside really of our purview, that DuPage County can be sometimes difficult to work with on that. What happens if the traffic signal is not approved?
Well, the heavy lifting's been done here, given the work that was done previously with Lowe's.
With Lowe's?
The county was quite familiar with it, and they've, you know, approved on a preliminary basis the location. To the extent that you need further detail, I could have our traffic consultant come back up. But essentially, it is approved subject to doing the completed engineering.
I see. Okay. I think the facility, I took the time when it was on our August agenda to travel to 2 of them to check them out, and I think the drawing here is very nice looking. It's a beautiful facility, and I applaud you for that. I think there have been some extra dollars spent on both the architectural work as well as there will be on the construction costs, so it looks nice. Certainly much better than Elmhurst, on a par up there perhaps with Palatine, probably better than that even. But I enjoyed sort of going through and taking a look at them. That's the only questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thomas?
I understand Westbrook's concern. My question to you is, who do you think you're competing with? Do you think you're competing with Westbrook, Standard Market, Nature's Best, Whole Foods?
Well, the Mariano's concept's a little unique in that it services customers for multiple needs. The concept here, it's a store that provides bulk goods to the extent that a Costco might have it, to the extent that you need some bulkier items, it's available. To the extent that you want a pre-prepared foods type of venue, stop in from right after work to pick up something to eat, it in fact competes with maybe a local restaurant because you can get steak or fish or a deli sandwich. It also has the conventional grocery store items that you would find in a traditional Dominick's and Jewel, so it would compete then also with a traditional grocery store. So this store the concept is one stop to do each of those, rather than go to 3 different stops, you could do it at one store. So it's a much broader concept than a traditional grocery store, if that answers your question.
So I'm trying to, envision inside.
Yeah.
But inside the store is not what you're here for tonight,
Yeah, well, we are,
getting the
to
okay
the
in
extent that what's inside is basically generates the configuration of the building. The rotunda is an eating area. The traditional aisles within the center of the store, in fact, are the center of the store. So it's a multiple concept grocery store food experience, which is different than a traditional grocery store. It's certainly different than a traditional Cracker Barrel or restaurant that provides some benefit where you could buy some retail things. It provides a variety of experiences, so it's different than a traditional grocery store.
Okay. And he is right, you did bring out the big guns. And you, the presentation was something I haven't seen for a while. And a job, well done. There was an old drawing, big deal. Nice.
The lighting? Well, the lighting was accurate. It was just the position of the building.
Nice presentation.
Appreciate that.
And, all right, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I do have a couple of questions. I believe I read in one of the newspapers, probably Wall Street, if I'm not mistaken, was there a Mariano's grocery store closed in the city of Chicago?
Closed?
Closed.
One that opened and then closed? No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Perhaps they were talking about a similar name or something, but you've closed none of your existing stores? Okay. Your southwest corner of the existing, what would be your new parking lot? Right now, is that considered a pond, if you would, or it collects water many times out of the year? Do you have to address that in any remedial fashion whatsoever?
I'm sorry, is this?
Right up against 63rd Street, the southwest corner of your property.
Existing condition?
Existing.
Yeah. So what we've accounted for, so there is a area there. I mentioned that we're working with DuPage County EDP, who has jurisdiction over wetlands. We're going to be mitigating that. The depressional volume associated from a stormwater perspective, we're actually compensating for that in the underground detention facility.
I understand that, but do you have to replace, is DuPage County going to allow you to pave that area over?
Yes.
When you say mitigating?
Yes. When we mitigate it, what we're doing is we're constructing, or essentially,
Is that what your bioswales are?
well, no, from a wetland perspective, we're removing the wetlands from this site.
Correct.
And then we're buying wetland mitigation bank credits for a
Okay.
wetland in a different location that DuPage County.
Not on this property.
That's correct.
I
That's
understand.
correct.
Okay, very good. Okay, that answers one. Mr. Pagnotta, I have a question for you, or perhaps maybe the representative from Mariano's.
Throw it out, and we'll see who's the appropriate
Either
person.
or, how do you see yourself as compared to competing with Westbrook Market, or perhaps enhancing Westbrook Market? Could you address that?
No, I mean, I think that's a good and fair question. Obviously, both as grocery stores, we're selling a lot of the same items, so certainly it would be a competitor of ours. But, you know, anytime that we come into a new market, you know, we're going to bring additional customers to that market. They could shop at their store. You know, in our business, it's difficult. I mean, we have a lot of stores, a lot of places. We've had Walmarts go across the street from us and had a lot of competition come, and it certainly can be difficult, but sometimes what it does is it sort of the high tides raise all boats. And, you know, by having more customers, by having competition, you know, they have the ability to sharpen their offerings and tailor it to do something to attract those customers. So will we compete with them directly? No. I mean, we have a different concept than they have, and hopefully they can maintain their shopping base. Certainly our success does not depend on their failure. We're certainly looking to cast from a wider net and wider range, and we're going to compete with the Whole Foods down in Hinsdale. We're going to compete with the Dominick's and the Jewels. So we're really trying to cast a wider net than just suggesting we're going to take all the customers from next door.
Well, I live in the immediate area, and I shop Westbrook at least 3 times a day.
Okay.
I mean, 3 times a week.
That's a lot.
Wow. Yeah. I'm at least in there 3 times a week.
Right.
I do too.
And anybody that's been in the store knows that they cater to a very predominant ethnic trade, which is, do you see yourself competing with them on that?
Well, you know, I think one of the things that we do is I would say probably not directly. We'll certainly have, and that's a lot of my point of, you know, you've got different stores, serve different customers, and if their niche is serving that ethnic customer and they can do it better than we can, then they're still going to maintain an edge in that department, and hopefully they're going to maintain that customer. You know, our store is 71,000 square feet, and I can tell you, we're gonna have a higher, more food service probably than they're offering, so that's going to be different. We are going to have a larger seating area, so obviously that takes some of the square footage. So we're not going to be able to match them item for item on some of those ethnic items. So the answer, I guess, to that question would be no. We certainly are going to tailor the store to the neighborhood, but if that's their niche, then no, we're not going to be able to necessarily match that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's pretty much my questions. Staff, any further questions that you could come up with? Any comments?
Just for the benefit of the public, next Thursday evening, the village board will be hearing the zoning requests related to this. That's being done to accommodate a scheduling difficulty with the subsequent set of meetings. So if a vote is made tonight, it's anticipated that next Thursday evening at 7 o'clock in this location, the village board meeting would take place.
Okay, very good. Any final queries from the commission?
I do have one question
Please, if
regarding
you would, Steve.
the bioswale. As far as the amount of water that goes in there, how much of that, I mean, does it all go, after it's filtered, go into the retention area? And is that, you know, what percentage of the water that falls is actually going to go through the bioswale?
So based on DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance, what we're required to provide is 1.5 inches across the impervious area. So whatever's paved out there, we need to provide 1.5 inches. So that generates a volume associated with what we need to store. So that water, that first flush, what we call, when it rains and that water is going into our bioswale, that's treated. And then it goes through an engineered soil mix to perforated under drain underneath it, and then that leads to the storm sewer system that goes to the detention chamber system that ultimately is released to 63rd Street.
So that 1.5 inches, is that percentage-wise over, typically?
It's probably,
going.
I'm just doing the math in my head, probably 10%?
Well, it's generally for the 2-year storm, and
2 years.
usually the detention is for a 100-year storm, if that gives you any idea, so.
Yeah, roughly about 10%.
10%, okay. So 10% of the water that falls will be filtered, 90% will not be filtered, but it's better than none.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
And that's
okay.
the reason why we incorporate best management practices.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Everything should be filtered through the best management practices, but some of it's going to be infiltrated more. And the 2-year storm should be infiltrated, the rest, everything should be treated.
Okay, all right, that was my concern and question. Thank you.
Okay, any
Karen,
further?
anything else?
Any further questions? Okay, since we have a request for a zoning variance, may we have a reading of the findings of fact, please?
Criteria number 1, the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it's located. The proposed wall signage is keeping in scale with the overall building frontage of approximately 330 feet. The total proposed signage for the property contains less square footage than allowed by code, and all proposed signs individually are within code limits. The extra signage is necessary due to the fact that the property does not have a corner intersection location, and the proposed building will be set back a significant distance from the roadway, thus necessitating the need for additional exposure to customers. The proposed monument sign is modest in scale and height and likely will not be visible from the intersection of 63rd and Cass Avenue. The applicant will not have sufficient exposure for the proposed store without this additional signage. Criteria number 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. The variance is primarily necessitated by the setback off the roadway and the fact that the property does not have a location at the intersection. Criteria number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. The proposed signs are below the maximum allowed square footage for signs, will be aesthetically pleasing, and will be consistent with signage in the immediate area of this busy commercial corridor.
If you agree with these findings, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement. The findings of fact for a variance are hereby adopted. Under Planning and Zoning Item 13022, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Item A, zoning code variance request to increase the number of allowable signs from 1 to 3 to allow 2 wall signs and 1 ground sign.
So moved?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on a motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
And Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, and Chairman Richard.
Yes. Okay, item B, special use permit. We need a reading of the findings of fact, if you would, please.
Criteria number 1, that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the special use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. The applicant proposes to display only temporary seasonal items on a concrete area in front of the store similar to other grocery store and hardware store displays. Such temporary displays will have no impact on the public safety, health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. Criteria number 2, that the special use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. The outdoor displays will be temporary and will be generally moved indoors at night. The displays will not result in adverse noise, traffic, light, odor, or other impediment or harm to surrounding properties, nor impair property values. Criteria number 3, that the establishment of the special use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. Surrounding properties are fully developed, and this special use for temporary outdoor sales will not impact the redevelopment of surrounding properties. Criteria number 4, that adequate utilities, access ways, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided. The property will be serviced by adequate utilities, parking lots, access ways, and drainage. Criteria number 5, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. The temporary outdoor displays will not occur in the grocery store parking lot and therefore will not interfere with traffic or parking on site. The merchandise displayed will be marketed to existing customers and will not in and of itself result in undue traffic problems. Adequate pedestrian walkways will be maintained. Criteria number 6, that the special use shall, in all other respects, conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it's located, except as such regulations may in each instance be modified by the village board pursuant to the recommendation of the Plan Commission. The proposed temporary outdoor display and sales of merchandise will conform to all other ordinances of the village, and no variances or other approvals are being sought in conjunction with this request.
Before we vote on this, I need a clarification on a reading of the finding of fact for number 5. The temporary outdoor displays will not occur in the grocery store parking lot. Where will they display?
Along the building wall, typically.
They have an area for it.
Are they going to be on the public sidewalk?
No, they'd be along the front wall of the building, most usually.
Little court there.
Yeah, there's sufficient area to
Okay.
provide pedestrian walkway as well.
Okay, just so I'm clear on that. Okay, we have reading of findings of fact. If you agree with this, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in agreement on the findings of fact for a special use. Therefore, they are hereby adopted. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Item B, special use permit request to operate temporary open-air sidewalk or tent sales in the C1 Commercial Business District.
So moved.
Second.
That was motion by Commissioner Fleet, seconded by Commissioner Fidesco. Question on the motion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Yes. Okay, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Item C, a preliminary plat of subdivision to consolidate 2 parcels into 1.
So moved?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on the motion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Chairman Richard?
Yes. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Item D, site and landscaping plan approval to construct a grocery store of approximately 71,300 square feet in the C1 Commercial Business District.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on the motion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Fidesco?
Yes.
Commissioner Anton?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet?
Yes.
Commissioner Pill?
Yes.
And Chairman Richard?
Yes. All right, sir, you have our recommendation for approval, and as staff has said, next Thursday evening will be your show.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Not the next.
Anybody want to take a 5-minute break, or we just keep going?
I'm fine.
Okay?
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Next item on the agenda. Please. Next item on the agenda, Planning and Zoning Item 13023. Kevin Benfield regarding the property located at 324 North Warwick Avenue for the following. A, zoning code variance request to allow the construction of a detached garage over 28 feet in length in the R3 Single Family Detached Residence District. Thank you. Item B, zoning code variance request to allow the construction of a detached garage over 576 square feet in area in the R3 Single Family Detached Residence District. Item C, zoning code variance request to allow the construction of a detached garage over 15 feet in height in the R3 Single Family Detached Residence District. Item D, zoning code variance request to allow a driveway wider than the 22-foot maximum width allowed by village code. Mr. Benfield?
Good evening. My name is Gene Newman with Dreamhouse Architects, and I'm going to present the variance request on behalf of Mr. Benfield, who is with us this evening. Mr. and Mrs. Benfield recently purchased the property and intend to build a single-family residence on it. They would like also to build a large detached garage to store a variety of vehicles. I need to turn this.
Just put it down and it'll come on. Just give it a moment.
This is a floor plan of the structure he would like to build, and it's the vehicles that he would like to store are a 32-foot RV, a boat trailer, a large passenger van, and several collectible cars. While these vehicles could be stored outside in the rear of the property behind the front of the house, Mr. Benfield believes very strongly that it is beneficial to all of his neighbors that they be kept out of sight in an attractive structure. I was going to list the variances that we need in order to build the structure, but you've already started with that, so I will forego that. I have a proposed site plan. This is a proposed site plan showing the home with its attached garage and the detached garage. The detached garage will be approximately 200 feet back from Warwick Avenue, and about 80 feet back from the front of the house. 80 feet back from the rear of the house. To the north, on this side, there'll be 10 feet to the side property line. Right now, there's currently a very dense line of evergreens that will shield that side of the structure from the adjacent townhouses. There'll be approximately 54 feet from the rear of the proposed accessory building to the rear property line, and approximately 37 feet to the south property line. The driveway will be minimized in the front of the property with a 10-foot wide drive, and will not widen out to the wider drives that we're requesting until behind the house. With a lot size of 30,490 square feet, the allowable lot coverage of 30% is 9,147 square feet. The proposed home, attached and detached garages, all driveways and walkways will come in below the allowable at 9,136 square feet. While we're under the maximum 30% allowed by the Northeast Acres moratorium area, we will cooperate with any reasonable additional requests from the city engineer to help alleviate some of the flooding concerns of the neighborhood. This is a view from the front of the home and the garage as seen from Warwick. The home will be similar in appearance to the one shown here. Mr. Benfield has previously built that exact home in Westmont for his daughter. It's currently located at 304 Chicago Avenue. As you can see from this view, by placing the detached garage 200 feet back from the front property and mostly behind the home, the impact of its size is minimized. Additional trees and other landscaping features will be strategically placed to further minimize the size of the structure. This picture represents the aesthetics for the garage. Primary difference will be that we would need a large door in the center portion of the structure, a large overhead door, in order to be able to get the RV into the structure. By breaking up the building into 3 sections, varying the heights, changing the materials, adding a significant number of windows, the bulk of the building is thereby reduced. The garage will probably not be red in color, but we'll have 2 colors in contrasting trim like this one. This is the proposed front elevation, the large overhead door for the RV and the boat, a smaller door to the side for cars, same basic proportions as the picture that I previously had up here. This is the rear elevation, again similar in proportions to the front. Just one small door on the rear center of the building for things like lawn tractors and so forth. And then lastly, these are the side elevations. Again, pretty much both the same, the south and north elevations. Again, by varying the roof heights, the materials, putting lots of windows on it, by setting back the side wings, if you will, on the building, it all serves to break down the mass because it is such a large structure. Mr. and Mrs. Benfield have been looking for a property where an accessory building like this might be appropriate. Although you recently rezoned this property R3, the fact is it's still very much a transitional area. Given its proximity to the large office building 3 lots away, the 32-unit apartment building 2 lots away, the multifamily property just behind it, the ComEd facility and the townhouses to the north, the value of this property has been severely diminished. Our proposal maintains the single-family nature of the street and yet addresses the diverse nature of the existing surrounding properties. I'd like to address the concerns that the staff had raised in their report. Mr. Benfield has no intentions of parking additional vehicles outside of the garage. That is his reason for asking for the structure the size that he is. He's very concerned about the appearance of the property and believes that all vehicles should be out of sight. I believe there are ordinances in place that would prevent a future owner from running businesses out of the garage or generating excessive noise. With all the second point that was brought up by the staff, with all the driveway areas, we do not see the need for a patio or a deck. And certainly with all the garage, a shed would not be needed. That being said, if the commission thinks that some amount of area should be set aside for future expansion, we certainly can modify the plan slightly to accommodate that. Excuse me a minute. The third point they brought up was setting precedent. And as far as setting precedent, by approving a substantially larger garage than is permitted, we doubt that there is any other property in town located in a residential zoning that has the variety of building size and use surrounding it. Mr. Benfield suffers from Parkinson's disease, and although he is currently able to function quite well with his medications, this is a degenerative disease which will probably restrict him to a wheelchair at some point. The larger accessory building would help accommodate the use of a wheelchair lift for the recreational vehicle and a van and greatly improve his safety and well-being. Incidentally, the home being designed for the property will be accessible and includes an elevator shaft for the installation of an elevator if and when it becomes necessary. We don't believe the approval of these variances will alter the character of the neighborhood. Rather, we believe it will lift the value of this and the surrounding properties. Mr. and Mrs. Benfield want to be good neighbors and improve the aesthetics of the entire area. Thank you for your consideration. That's all I have right now.
Okay, one thing, state law requires that when you request a variance, you address the specific hardship. What is or are the specific hardships that you want a garage of such size? I realize
those
that
hardships,
you want this because of what you have, but what are the hardships? That's what we have to listen to make a judgment whether you're entitled to a variance.
right. Well, the one hardship I believe I somewhat touched on is the financial. The property as it sits is not worth anywhere near what a typical residential lot of that size would command. It's a very large lot, and it couldn't be sold nearly what property should be sold at. So Mr. Benfield believes that by improving it in this way, it would increase the value of the property and therefore increase the value of surrounding properties. Also, as I mentioned, and I didn't want to dwell on it, but his Parkinson's disease does make it difficult for him to function, and he knows well down the road that a wheelchair will be probably in the picture, and being able to keep store an RV indoors and access it through the use of a ramp or lift will make it much easier for him to continue his life as a lifestyle as he should be able to.
Okay, you did make one comment that you can't see of any other properties in a residential section equal to this. I would comment that the two lots to the south of you would be such as the same.
Lots to the south.
Yes, where the house is for sale and then the vacant lot next to that.
There is no vacant lot next to it. There's the apartment
Yeah,
buildings next to
okay,
it.
then it's the apartment building down there. So it's the lot adjacent to you to the south could fit the same description. So we are looking at
Okay, you're right.
that are more than one. So it's not unique. Okay, we'll go to the public. Public comment, please. If you would just announce your name, and I'm going to presume that I could not keep track of everybody that was sworn in, so I'm going to presume that you've all been sworn in.
I was sworn in. Good evening. My name's Don Cumber. I live at 313 North Warwick Avenue. Been residents of, my wife and I have been residents of Westmont for going on 23 years now, so we've been here for a long time. With all due respect, I'm not sure you have answered the board's question in terms of the hardship for a variance that is twice, if my math is correct, that is twice in length and 5 times the size and square footage that's allowable by the ordinance. I don't believe that that's really a place for that type of storage facility. It's a residential neighborhood. There's commercial property that is available where things as storage for cars and boats and RVs certainly can be had other than in our neighborhood. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to ask directly questions to Mr. Benfield, but if I could filter them through the board, is that fair? I'd like to know where the cars are currently being stored today.
Could you speak to the microphone? The audience at home cannot hear your response.
I have a place in Michigan. I have some of the vehicles there. I have a place in Hinsdale. Some of the vehicles are there. And I used to have a place in Downers Grove before I was diagnosed with Parkinson's over by Roslyn and the Subway, and the bagel shop. I sold that when I got my diagnosis, thinking I would not be able to use it long, and I didn't know what the future was. Fortunately, the Parkinson's has been treated fairly well with my medicines, so I've avoided wheelchairs and lifts and other things. But I was hoping to get a place that would be good for residential and my vehicles. When I looked around, the 32-unit apartment building, the ComEd Center, the nature of that neighborhood is, I think, benefited by something like this. There's not more than 300 feet away, there's another garage where there's a car repair shop. And I think my place will be a lot nicer than that. There's a lot of vehicles everywhere. So I think I'd be a good neighbor. I think it would be the highest and best use of this property. The one next door is pretty good, but you have to buy the house and tear it down, start from scratch, where this property, house is already torn down, it's empty, waiting for somebody to do something.
Thank you. And again, with all due respect, the sheer size of this storage facility, coupled with the apartment that's right across from my street, coupled with the townhomes that were just put in, is just another variance to otherwise pretty calm and easy, nice living area in terms of Westmont. Putting up such a facility to store cars, quite frankly, is really not a place for residential. In the letter that was passed out, the flyers, states that I'd like to be able to store my cars inside rather than in the rear of the yard. So in other words, if this variance is not approved, you will take, I'm assuming, collectible cars and leave them outside in the rear
That was in no way intended to be a threat, if that's the way.
No, I'm not thinking of a threat. I personally have a Corvette that I store in Westmont. I don't leave it outside to the elements, and I'm sure you would not leave very valuable cars, so I'm not quite sure I understood your statement when you said you would rather store them than leave them in the rear of the yard. Can you address that, please?
That was just basically stating that.
Could you come to the podium, please?
If you would, to the podium. Like I say, the home audience cannot hear you.
Again, that was no intent to be a threat, saying, well, if you don't give it to us, we're going to put them all in the backyard. And obviously, you're right, he would never do that. I think it was more or less just, maybe that could have been worded better. I guess, what it was saying is that the potential is there for someone to put all their toys in the backyard. They could put an RV, a boat, a trailer,
in our
a van.
residential neighborhood, yes.
Exactly.
You are
So,
correct.
maybe not collectible cars, but a menagerie of vehicles could be left in the backyard, all out in the open.
Like my neighborhood.
And Mr. Benfield just believes that building a beautiful building to put all these things into, rather than leave them out. So you're right, he would never leave collectible cars outside, but that probably could have been worded a little better. But
Thank you. And just a few other final comments in closing. Again, and with all due respect, I don't believe that adds a lot of value in terms of property values. I'm concerned about aesthetics. I'm concerned about flooding. As you know, Warwick floods a lot, not including a 100-year rain, sometimes more than the 100-year rain.
A 1-year rain?
Yeah, 1-year rain. So we get a lot of water there, and so I'm not sure, again, not being a civil engineer like the other folks that were here, I certainly don't know the cause and effect relationship of putting that type of size of a facility on this property, but certainly if there's a negative effect, it's just gonna exacerbate the problem with the flooding. And then I got one other final question in closing to the board. You talk about 4 variances. You have currently 28 feet length, 570 square foot facility, 15 foot in height, and 22 maximum width. Why are these values there today? What are the reasons those are there today? Question for the board.
Over a period of time that these have been judged adequate for most everybody, and the village has been fairly comfortable with everybody living that way.
And I agree with that, and that's the exact same reason why we should not approve this type of variance, because these make sense for a residential area. 5 times the standard, to me, does not pass the common sense test. That's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
You did raise a very valid point about the stormwater. Would staff care to have some input as to how that would be a stormwater best managed practice?
Sure. As they mentioned, it is located within the building moratorium area, and they are required to stay within 30% lot coverage, which they have. Because they have more than 2,500 square feet of net new hard surface, they're required to do best management practices, which we talked about with the former, with Mariano's as well. That can be dry wells, permeable pavers, rain gardens, things like that. But the site will have to be fully engineered, and our planning engineer, Kim Nickel, will be reviewing that.
And the petitioner has been made aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Please, if you would, give your name.
Jason Fichtel, 27 Melrose Street, the Westmere Glen Townhome Association, that's right behind the trees. In regards to the water, does that discussion only affect the water that will be going towards Warwick, or the new water that most likely will run downhill into our backyards onto Melrose?
And do you want to?
The property does have a ridge. The water will have to be, what you have to do is you have to do either some kind of dry well or infiltration trenches to do the 2-year storm like I talked about earlier with the Marianos. And so they might have to, in this situation, they might have to provide 2. They might have to provide 1 for the rear and 1 for the front because they have to do the 2-year storm for the amount of impervious that they're creating.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, sir? Okay, please. Anybody else? Public comment?
I'm Mary Robertson Iverson, 320 North Warwick. I'm the house that's for sale, directly to the south. I did get to meet Kevin and his son David about a month and a half, 2 months ago. I thought, finally, we're going to be in a position to have some normal things back on the block, because, as you recall, there was some weird stuff going on with that property, not to mention our zoning and everything. At that time, talking with Kevin and David Benfield, he assured me they want to put up a lovely single-family home, and the plans look wonderful for that single-family home. And then he told me about the RV garage. He said this was a main stickler for him. He has a brand-new RV. It needs to, he would like to keep it inside of a garage. He told me to check out the property that is behind, which he spoke of on Roslyn, behind the subway. I did check that out. That is just a single-vehicle, tall garage. And I told him, I don't see our neighborhood having any problem with anything like that. Take care of your RV. I even spoke with neighbors. I said, this is going to be great. It's going to be a beautiful place. 1 extra garage. I was so shocked when I saw this, and my neighbors probably thought I was nuts when I saw the plans that came out. I'm telling them this is going to be great, and everyone's concentrating on just the garage in the back. I'm alarmed by the 5-car garage that's attached to the back of the house. And I think that the reason why that's going to be able to be done is because of the width variation for the driveway. Take away that width variation, and I don't think you're going to be able to put 5 cars worth in a garage. So we're talking 10 cars, an RV, a boat, and a van. That sounds like a storage facility to me. I'm sorry. As was brought up, we are trying to sell our property. And unbeknownst to me, the lady who is here, who came and just happened to poke her head in from Arlington Heights, she's one of the people who was interested in our property. She's here to watch what happens in this village as far as how we treat situations like that. I honestly believe if this goes through, I will not have someone to sell my house to. I'm terrified. Yes, we have an apartment building. Yes, we have Commonwealth Edison. And yes, on the next block, there is horrible, horrible flooding. So what can you tell me? You know, how is this not going to hurt property values? And forget the values, how am I ever going to sell it? Someone's got to buy our house. We got to retire. So that is what I wanted to bring up. Oh, and the other thing too, I think the architect spoke to it, but I didn't quite understand. Most homes today have a patio or a deck. If not now, somebody's going to come before you for a variance because they're going to want a patio or a deck. I don't think they're going to want to have their cookouts on a driveway. And so we're going to be looking at more impervious areas. I gotta say, you know, it looks more and more like this is gearing up for a storage facility than a single-family home. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. You wish to?
I just wanted to address one thing she said, and that was regarding the 5-car attached garage. Now, obviously, there's a lot of garage space with this house, and again, it's concerning collectibles and so forth. But there is no zoning ordinance against the 5-car garage or even larger. The zoning does not address that. And
As long as it's attached to the house.
Exactly. And regarding the fourth part of the variance request, which is the driveway width, since most homes nowadays have 3-car garages, you can't do a 3-car garage with a 22-foot wide driveway. A double door and a single door right there add up to 24 feet, and then some space between it, and then a little bit of space on each side, you automatically have a driveway that's over 22 feet. So regardless of what happens with the detached structure we're talking about, in order to build at least the minimum of a 3-car garage, we would need a variance on the driveway width anyway.
What the code provides is that driveways have to be no less than 9 feet, no wider than 22 feet, and a reasonable flare is allowed at the street and at the garage. I think in this case, staff probably, I don't want to speak for them, may have interpreted, since you have a variance for the oversized accessory structure, creating an oversized flare to get into the garage, that necessitates the variance. Had you built or proposed a conforming accessory structure, the flare wider than 22 feet would be a little more reasonable than what's proposed.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I would have assumed that the 22 feet restriction was at the front of the property. So you don't have half of your lot width in front of the house all taken up with concrete, which is one reason by maintaining a 10-foot wide drive till we get to the back of the house. I thought we addressed the width of the driveway issue. So regardless of what happens here, it still seems to me we need to address the driveway width. So so that even if we couldn't do what we're requesting for the detached garage, that we would have the ability to do a large attached garage with a driveway that would be appropriate for the size of the garage.
Unfortunately, that is not up to us this evening, though.
Well, it is in the sense that you can make a recommendation if they were to, if you vote down the detached garage, I guess they'd have to come back before you with some modified plans. But I don't know, maybe we should discuss how you want to handle that. Because they would, if they just maintain a 5-car attached garage, there would have to be some reasonable flair to allow them access into that garage.
5 doors, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Flare would have to match the garage door.
Okay, well, we'll worry about that when we come to it. We're not there yet. Okay. Okay, more public comment, please. If you would, come on back. Yes, sir, please.
Since we're on the subject of the 5-car garage, I was just wondering, because that's going to be a lot of wall there for us to stare at. I mean, we're staring at a lot of wall right now with a 32-unit apartment building, so we're going to have a large wall here. Is there going to be any softscape going on, any landscaping? Yeah, to...
You know, no one, other than the staff, saw the original drawings for this detached garage, and we've changed that dramatically to try to soften everything, to break up the size of it. And as I said in my opening statement, that we'll do landscaping, anything we need to do to soften those surfaces. I would not put a 50-foot-long blank wall facing your house. That just, I mean, that doesn't do anything for my reputation as a designer. This is, on the other hand, we're not going to completely design a building if we can't get approval to build it. So I tried to produce enough information here that...
I need you to convince the lady sitting right there, because she's representative of us trying to sell our home. She just happened to show up,
Yes, but
you know.
I hate to say this, but we're getting off the subject
Okay,
here.
I guess what I'm looking at is our property values. Seeking variance, you're supposed to do no harm to the area. I don't know that I will not be harmed or that we will not be harmed.
Duly noted. Thank you very much. Yes, sir, please.
I guess I can respectfully disagree with the previous neighbor that I have talked to a couple times. When I look at the 32-unit apartment complex next door to her, I look at the ComEd facility not more than a couple hundred feet away. A lot of people are scared to death of those cancer concerning issues when you're dealing with electricity of that magnitude. When you look at the repair shop next to the office building, there's a lot of things in that neighborhood that I think are much more detrimental than a nice-looking big garage. And if you look at the property that I built over by the subway on Roslyn, next door to that house, they put in a $750,000 brand-new house. And that garage was nowhere near as nice as this garage. It was just a big barn. It was a storage facility for my things then. When I built that 20 years ago, I only had 3 kids. Now I've got 5 kids and 6 grandkids and more on the way. So I have a lot of visitors, a lot of friends, a lot of family. I'm a respectable guy that takes care of my property. And I really think, to be honest, if you vote me down, who's going to be behind me is going to be much less appealing. When you look in the neighborhood as to what's detracting, most people, that when they want to build on a house, on a lot, they look at what's around them. If you're going to build a new house, you don't want to be next to a 32-unit building or a high-powered electric facility and a half-empty office space. So I'm not being a wise guy as to what the neighborhood is. I looked at what could I do to help the neighborhood, help me, and help the whole program. And I really think this is the highest and best use of that property. You may disagree, but if you look at the other properties that I've built and been involved with in Westmont and in Downers Grove, which is right next to Westmont, very good, very helpful. The property next to the $700,000 house that was just built new a couple years ago is a strip mall. And a lot of people said I shouldn't build that house next to the strip mall because it was so noisy and a bunch of garbage cans and bagel shops. But I, again, thought it'd be a good buffer. My new house in the front and the big garage in the back. And it turned out to really be good. The facility's been good. It's been there almost 15, 18 years. And I think this property would be better than that property because I just did it basic then. Didn't have concerns about Parkinson's and wheelchairs and lifts and being out of the weather and having family members come and help me. So I really honestly think that this property is going to help the neighborhood. You might have disagreements, but I think I have pretty good evidence from my other properties in Westmont and Downers Road, not more than a few blocks away. I'm a good neighbor, and this will help the property. If I don't get it, then I'll do something else. But I don't think it'll be quite as nice.
Anybody else from the public?
Yeah, I'm Dave Wisbrock. I live at 325 North Warwick. This thing's amazing. I want one too. I don't see how you guys can even consider this, especially knowing all the issues on our street as it is. I know this isn't a flood meeting, and you guys let us know last time how you feel about people on Warwick, but this is beyond ridiculous. There's no stormwater management. At least the other people, they had stormwater stuff on their proposal of what they want to do there. And this oversized driveway, I mean, where's all the water going here? I don't want to walk out my front door and see the barn, not unless I get one too. I mean, if you're going to allow it for them, my property's pretty big. Let everybody on the street do it. I don't know. This property is just, it's like the ongoing nightmare, you know, along with the stormwater that the village ignores. They put a couple new culverts in, that's nice, but rain barrels, that's going to solve our problems on Warwick. I hope your barn has rain barrels, but I mean, this is, I don't know, the street's a disaster, and adding this to it is just part of the disaster. I mean, we've seen what happened when the duplexes ended up on the corner. They flooded out the neighbor on Melrose and Warwick. They absolutely destroyed his house in the last storm, and that wasn't supposed to happen, and that took up a lot of space. This, again, is going to take up more ground for the water to go, and there's nothing showing where it's going on here but driveway. So I'm assuming it's just going to flood us even more. And I just, anyone would want that. I mean, anyone would want that in their yard, but I just don't think it fits in with the neighborhood. I disagree. I mean, the apartment complex doesn't fit in there. It's grandfathered in, we all understand that, but that doesn't fit in where we're at. I don't know, I hope you guys really consider, you know, looking at the people that live on the street, what we have to deal with. We already got enough to deal with storms and now this to add to it. I mean, that's just, it's more ground that's
So you don't
covered.
think that would buffer anything? That wouldn't be a good addition then at all?
No, I mean, the power lines from ComEd are so far back, their townhomes or where they all live, on Melrose, that blocks that from us as it is. I mean, I don't see it being a buffer for anything. I just see it more ground covered and more flood water coming to my house. That's what I see.
But would you agree, though, that if someone engineers and puts a house in and he has to go through the stormwater stuff, that the water's now being taken care of? Or right
I don't
now
believe it, because the stormwater stuff has never been taken care of. Look at Chicago Avenue that destroyed our
You're talking the whole
streets.
area,
I
though.
mean,
So if you have,
it gets worse and worse.
as a builder, when we go into an area and you take the area over and you modify it, let's say, for simpler terms, and you put in stormwater stuff and new projects come in, start taking care of the water where it's supposed to go. Right now, you got a lot of empty fields there and a lot of area where the water just, like a comment, it just blows all over the place.
All right, explain the 400 block where the water goes in the brand new house that I have flooded
I'm not trying to
pictures.
explain the
I don't
400 block. I don't
understand.
know, I'm not the engineer for the village. I don't know how this all works. I'm just saying, when something new goes in, like my house went in, there's no more water in that particular area for at least a house each way, because the problem was my side.
I understand that
They swale it
concept.
out and they bring it back and it goes into some, I don't know, some stem in the back that goes between the properties. So when my house went in, now it doesn't have, all the rainwater comes off the roof, goes into underground, I think they're just tubes that go in the back. They go all the way to the back of the house and they go in directly into the stormwater line.
I understand that, but
So that
if you
takes
go to
care
the
of some things.
400 block where the house is just being built now, I have pictures of it, over 4 feet of water well over 4 feet of water. So I don't understand how it works when I see it not working all the time on my
I
street.
understand too, I get that.
I mean,
I'm just saying-
it's not working right now.
I get you.
Right now, it's not working. You guys
What you need to have,
allowing this.
what needs to happen is you have to have some development in there to take care of the water, get rid of some of the definite.
The property where the house is being built on the 400 block would have been great retention. That would have been the best development. Then you could do whatever you want with the rest of our properties where the stormwater is going somewhere.
Right.
The stormwater has nowhere to go,
Right.
and adding more stuff on the grounds is not going to help it. I mean, it's not helping on the 400 block. I watch it. I could show you pictures of that house with 5 feet of water in front of it.
Yes and no, because what happens is, from what I understand, is like parks are one of the worst things, because there's no water. Taking care of it is runs. I mean, stuff like that is bad for the areas. Yeah, I mean, look at Standard Market, for instance. That used to be a big problem there, water running out. Now the water doesn't run anywhere. Can anybody come and tell me if there's water sitting there? They're parking
No,
lots
it went to
drain
the
out.
car dealership that closed down, where all the cars got flooded in the last storm. That's where all
I
the
don't know
water
that,
went
yeah.
there.
That one doesn't make sense.
That came off of Blackhawk.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
Blackhawk.
I was standing out there.
But anyway, so I'm just saying that if something new goes in, typically it's supposed to help the area.
Typically, and I understand that. I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer. I mean, I am a contractor, and I've dealt with a lot of stuff, but from what I see on the 400 block, where they're putting up a new house that's underwater, I don't understand how it's improving property.
That's that long house?
Yeah, I'll bring in pictures and drop them off for you guys to see that it's not working there. It's not working today. It's a brand new house. It's not working. So
Okay.
allowing this is not going to make it better until something's addressed.
Yeah, let's not talk 400 block of Warwick, let's talk the 300 block.
Okay, my house has been flooded ever since Chicago Avenue's been done. This is directly across the street from my house. Where does the water go?
I know.
To allow this, where does the water go?
I know
Is
who
there
you
a
are.
reducer again?
You're right across from this property, I know.
Yeah, and last time when someone was in here, they said they were gonna put a reducer in. And then that engineer drove by during the flood, and he was like, I was like, that's where the reducer's going? He's like, yeah, and water's coming out of it like a fountain. So I'm like, how does the reducer work when water's already coming out of it like a fountain? I don't understand. I'm not an engineer. I know I'm pretty stupid compared to these engineers that know more than God, but how does a reducer where water is already overflowing work? I don't understand it.
If I may, Dave, we know there's a problem in that area, and you know the village is studying that with a stormwater committee right now, so that some funding priorities and decisions can be made. So I think we are getting a little bit off track because of that. There's some relation here because it's in this neighborhood, and we understand the difficulties you and your neighbors
No,
have
you
gone
guys
through.
don't. This is 5 years, and now you guys decide to start some committee to waste more time instead of doing something, and this is just gonna cause more problems. You don't understand. When your house is getting flooded every other week like ours, when your house is destroyed, you got 2 little babies in it, come tell me how you understand. Because you don't understand. And this will not help it until we get something resolved. I want to see where the dry well is in this picture, not a super large driveway. Where does this water go? Where does all this water go?
Well, it's gonna have to.
To a reducer or to my side of the street. That's what the other guy wanted to do. That's where they put the water. I don't understand how you guys can even consider this. I would love to have a barn. I would just love to have a house that doesn't flood anymore. But the engineers that did Chicago Avenue, obviously, we know how that worked out. I'll get some rain barrels from the village.
Okay, who else from the public, please, if you would?
Mr. Chairman, a request by the,
Oh, did you care to respond, sir? Okay, please. We'll give you time. Don't worry about it. We're not going anywhere.
I think I've got a pretty good record of the neighborhoods that I've been involved with. The house I just built in Westmont, we went through the very thing with keeping all the water off the house and the garage into the dry well in the backyard. It cost me quite a bit extra to do that. That's the requirement now at Westmont. I'd like to think I could contribute to the gentleman's concern.
It looks like he left.
I'd like to be part of the solution.
Oh, no, he did.
Because I think it's going to be hard to find somebody who's going to put money into this property unless you do something special. And that's why I was attracted to it. If he's got flooding problems, I'd like to be part of the solution rather than the problem. And I think a big structure like this, it's 30% of the property. You got 70% that's permeable. There's plenty of room to put dry wells, and I don't even understand engineering either myself. But I'd like to be part of the solution. And the reason we didn't put it in there, we weren't asked to. We would be glad to do it, and we made it clear to everybody that we talked to that we would do whatever it took to keep our water on our property in dry wells or whatever it takes. And if we need to take somebody else's water that drains to us, I'd be glad to help. This is an unusual property. It's an unusual request, but I think I could be part of the solution rather than the problem. I'm not going anywhere. I've been in Hinsdale 30 years. I've had property in Westmont for 20 years. I want this to be nice, but it's going to be hard to find somebody who's going to develop this property to be as good a neighbor as I think I can be, but I can't guarantee it. I'm just telling you, that's how I look, that's how I live, that's how I do it. If you got people with flooding problems, I'd like to help.
Thank you, sir. Yes, miss.
My husband and I have been considering seriously purchasing.
Again, your name, please, if you
Ray
would.
Ann Fitch. Seriously considering purchasing Mary's charming historic bungalow right next to the doctor's property. I was not aware of how large the garage structure was going to be. I can't imagine looking over at a barn. I mean, there's nothing there at the moment, but it would really affect our decision in purchasing the property if such a large structure was put there. And to be honest, the apartment complex, I've talked to several people over there, very nice building, very nice residents. That does not really detract hardly at all from our decision-making. And the ComEd facility is behind the property and down the street, so the property is talked down a lot.
You don't see the ComEd. I know, it's too far
Right.
away.
So I don't see any problem, finding someone to develop that lot next to us if it wasn't this facility. So it's a very charming neighborhood, and I would hate to see such a large structure go there.
Thank you. Who else from the public? You've all sat there, you must have some comments. Please, I'd like to hear them.
Here 2.5 hours to hear this? I can't believe it's before the board.
Please,
Oh, it is.
come up.
Let's hear it.
So
We
the
have
people,
nothing but
let's
time.
hear it.
We're here on our own
I
dime.
can't deduce what you're thinking if you don't say it.
My name is Scott Johnson. I'm at 323 North Warwick Avenue, directly across the street from this. To be perfectly honest with you, I can't believe this is even being entertained by the board. We currently have a 570, I believe it is, square foot for garages. We're going to try and even think about putting in something that's almost 6 times, 5 times larger than what we have in the village. This isn't about a garage. This isn't about a barn. This is about a warehouse that he's building to put all of his toys. Will you be living in the house? So you're going to be selling everything off? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think this is going to become a rental property and a storage facility for all of his toys. I do not know how this helps our neighborhood. I don't care if you played it in gold right now. This does not help our neighborhood whatsoever. To degrade our neighborhood and try and put everything down like how he's doing and what a great developer he is in other parts of Westmont and Downers Grove, it has no effect on us. A 3,000 square foot warehouse affects us in a residential neighborhood. No matter what can be sugar-coated here, it affects our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is underwater as it is. We do not need a 3,000-foot warehouse in my front yard looking at that thing. It doesn't matter how nice you make the front of it. I don't care about this buffer. The buffer of what? So I don't hear ambulances going up and down Cass Avenue? We don't hear the apartments. Mary does. I mean, we don't hear Cass Avenue. And to say it's a buffer because what? Are things exploding at ComEd? You don't hear anything in the neighborhood. You know, honestly, I'm sort of insulted that he says that and that's what he thinks about our neighborhood. You know, to be honest with you, if you don't think much of it, then don't build there. We think enough of it because we've invested. And to put in a warehouse across the street from me and paint it red and call it a garage, a nice word would be a barn. This isn't a barn. Go build it down on the south side of Westmont where all the warehouses are. That's where it belongs. not in my neighborhood, not in all these people's neighborhoods. This is a very hot button. You guys know this from us being here before. And I can't believe it's even before this commission right now. To even
So
give it any
everybody has
thought.
the right to bring stuff in front of the commission.
Hey, I understand that,
We
but
can't
I
stop
mean,
someone from bringing it in front of the commission.
I'm not saying not to,
So
but this
that
is
doesn't fly.
ridiculous that this is even going to this. You know, and to be honest with you, to have residents sit here for an hour and a half to listen to a business development going in when they're wheeling in 20 of their people, I mean, come on, there's consideration here. And I'm not really sure if we're getting it as residents of the 300 block of North Warwick. So that's all I have to say. I appreciate the time. I hope this is voted down. I can't believe this is even being brought under consideration by the commissioners. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Please.
I myself also have a 31-foot RV. I'm also under contract right now to put in, I think it's about a 125-foot concrete driveway. I'm going to withdraw that contract that I signed. So if needed, I'm going to put in a permeable, excuse me, gravel driveway so that I can then put in a warehouse as my neighbor's going to be doing. So I will be before the commission as well if this does go through. Because if this is going to be a precedent setting in the neighborhood, I'm going to be jumping on it to put
So
my
that's a
RV
threat,
in.
then you're gonna come back and.
No, it's an idle threat as much as what he's putting on us. But yeah, I will. I've got a $12,000 concrete proposal that I'll put into a pole barn. So
Okay,
if the precedent's going to be set, yeah, I'll
This
come
kind,
back.
this kind of talk doesn't do anybody any
But
good.
that's what I'm saying. It's ridiculous that we're even here for that. And I mean, I've got a concrete driveway going in that I don't need to put in if I put in a gravel driveway.
I understand that.
So thank you.
I think a good predictor of what someone is going to do is what they've done. Property that you're saying is a barn and not good for the neighborhood was very good for the neighborhood on Roslyn, next door to the strip mall as a buffer. It was very good. I'm proud of that project, and I think this one would even be better. And I'm offended that you're offended at what I'm proposing, because I think it would be good. These big structures are nothing compared to the 32-unit complex. You talk about volume of size of things. Is it a 6-flat or what is that townhouse structure? It's a wall-to-wall building. My barn is not near as big as that 6-flat, and my lot is bigger. My barn is not near as big as the 32-unit apartment complex, and it's not near as big as the office building. This is unique.
Add to it?
I think I'll make it better. I honestly do, and I respect your neighborhood. I plan to live there. My kids live there. My grandkids live there. I think this will help the neighborhood, and I'm willing to help with the water problem. If your driveway will help the water problem, you should do it. If you have a way to get rid of your water on your property, there's a volume issue. And when you have 70% of the property permeable, you can have a lot to work with to get rid of the water. I think the water problem is an issue in many neighborhoods. It's not just Westmont. And so if I can be part of helping that water problem with my desire for a big barn warehouse, the barn warehouse over on Roslyn looks fine, and it's not near as attractive as what we're going to do here, if we're allowed to. I think you need to be creative in coming up with solutions. I think if this property is developed by somebody else, I'm just predicting. I've been around the neighborhood a long time, since I was a kid, watching what Westmont's come and go. And it's hard to get good people to do good projects. A lot of people are having a rough time, and I think I could help. My kids are going to be there, my grandkids are there, and I plan to have even more projects down the road. But it's just a matter of what is best for the community. And if I get shot down, you got to look at it from your perspective. I got to look at it from my perspective. And I think I could help.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public who will speak on this?
Have one follow-up comment. My wife heard a lot tonight about...
Again, your name, please.
I'm sorry, Don Cumber at 313 North Warwick Avenue.
In Rose Cumber.
Rose Cumber.
Thank you.
I heard a lot about tonight from Mr. Bunfield about being a good neighbor. And that's important. It's important to not only the folks that live in this area, but the blocks north, south, east, and west of us. And I think Mr. Benfield could get the appreciation from this type of response that the neighbors aren't happy with what we're seeing in terms of this almost 4,000 square foot storage facility. So if you wanted to be a very good neighbor, put up the lovely home. Put up a 3-car garage. Let me finish. But don't put up another 4,000 square foot facility, 3,000 square foot facility to store cars. If you want to be our good neighbor, we'll embrace that. Put up a beautiful home with a 2-car garage like every other house on that block. I'm talking about my block. I don't care what happens behind Subways, with all due respect. I don't care what happens. I'm talking about my block, my neighborhood. That's what I'm talking about, for 23 years.
Okay,
I can't do anything about that. That's already there, but I can do something now.
folks, we are getting off point. Please, let's stay on point.
I just wanted to just make a final comment here. And you actually started the meeting off when you said, where's the hardship? And Dr. Benfield has not proven a hardship at all. And another thing is the president. We have people that are going to build. I would like to build something in my backyard, a nice big facility, if I start collecting something. But really, it has to do with, there's no hardship here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, do you care to comment?
I'm not the kind of guy to emphasize an issue. All I know is I'm not Michael J. Fox or Muhammad Ali, but Parkinson's has really made it tough for me, and I'm trying to plan for the future. And I'd like to be part of this neighborhood. I'd like to have an elevator. I'd like to have enough space to have a storage for my facilities for my kids and grandkids. I'd like to have a wheelchair. And it's hard to do that in my house in Hinsdale, so I got to move at some point. When I built the house for my daughter on Westmont, on Chicago Avenue over by Roslyn, and the other 2 houses I built, I plan to have an elevator or lift, so depending who I live with. I mean, it's not a hardship now. My medicines aren't as effective today as when I'm off. I don't take all my drugs, so when I do need to perform, I can be a little better. But the hardship is not so much today, because I have it a lot better than a lot of people. But as you know how Parkinson's goes, each year it's going to get a little bit worse. I'm trying to plan for the future. And I think your neighborhood is a great neighborhood. That's why I'm choosing to invest in it. So I took a chance. I bought the lot knowing that I could get shot down. But I'd like to think I'd be the best neighbor for you, and I would help the water issue, and I would help the values of the property. And I know you don't care about Subway, but to say this is going to hurt your neighborhood, it's going to be better than the Subway property that I built 20 years ago. The barn is better, it's set back better, it's a bigger lot, and it's, in fact, the Subway situation is not even as rough as the neighborhood. It's a 32-unit apartment complex. That 32-unit complex, it's got an awful lot of nice people, but it has the potential, like you're saying, the potential for my property in the future to be tough too. You know, just to tell you what I was thinking of doing. I don't mean to sound like a wise guy. I'm just a hard-working guy from the south side that's been blessed in some ways. My first thought was if I was going to be approved for this project, I was going to try to talk to the owner of the 32 unit. So I understand he's got some concerns about the zoning change. Understanding that if that burned down, he couldn't rebuild it. Is that the understanding?
Something like that.
That's true, although he's filed a lawsuit challenging the rezoning of the property.
Well, if I was able to do this project like I hope I was going to be able to, my first thought was to talk to him and see if I can work something out. Because I understand he lives in Florida. So this neighborhood is not near as dear to him as me or these other people. He's strictly an investor. I'm an investor, got a lot of properties, and I wouldn't mind investing in that 32 units to make it as good as it could be on the neighborhood that I would be part of. But that's my thoughts. Can't guarantee anything. Just like this guy that invested in it 20 years ago, whatever it was, had no way of knowing that zoning was going to change and he'd be in a lawsuit with you. Like I say, the best predictor of what someone does is what they're going to do is what they've done. And the hardship is not hard now. I'm fortunate as my disease is progressing slowly. But it is going to be a tough point. I think this property would be ideal for me to deal with this issue as I go through life.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who will speak to this from the public? Okay, seeing, let's close the public comment. We'll start with staff.
As Mr. Newman mentioned in his initial presentation, staff does have concerns about the variance running with the land. The driveway and the garage would be permanent. And while the current owner doesn't have intentions to park in the rear, future buyers could. The commission does see variances for houses that were built in the 1920s that had different requirements. We see those quite a bit. And, 100 years from now, obviously the ownership would change, and we don't know what would be stored in the garage or, what would be stored on the driveway. There's also concerns about the lot coverage being maxed out so that there's no potential for accessory structures, no patios, no decks, and it is character changing for the neighborhood.
Thank you.
If I may add, Chairman, from the moment staff saw this petition, it was deemed problematic in that we had never seen anything quite like it. I commend the architect and the property owner for trying to work through some of the issues and, trying to provide some sense of scale for the building. But really, staff is not able to, in good faith, support a variance of this size for this type of accessory structure. It does appear that it would be character changing.
Thank you very much. Let's start with Commissioner Thomas, if you would.
In a normal size lot, my reaction would be no, because it's just too big. You would think, though, that with this size lot, how deep it is, how far back the garage, barn / whatever you want to call it is going to be. It's way in the back. It's back behind the house, and that all that be considered, I would support it more. The problem is it's this block. And as far as the residents go, I understand that the village, regardless of what committee is about to meet, what they're supposed to be looking at flood-wise, the village has no credibility at all, none, as far as this block of people go. And to bring this size to their block, even though the lot, it fits in the lot in my head. I don't live on the block. But it's more better in that size block lot than in anything else. The fact that whatever the village has done in the past as far as water control and that, it just seems to me that it's kind of insulting that something that big of a structure would be put on the block, even though he is willing to work with engineering department and that and anything. Nothing yet, no proof has been given to this neighborhood that we're capable of controlling the water. And until that proof of some kind is, we cannot keep telling them, well, they'll work it out with engineering. And I'm not confident in that, and I can't support this. That's all I have.
Commissioner Phil?
Yeah, a couple of things. We didn't really get to see much about the house itself. Does the house match the structure in the back? Are they complementary to each other as far as design and finishes and things like that?
Well, yes, definitely. I told Mr. Benfield that I didn't think it was in his best interest to spend a lot of money designing a house when
I guess I would ask the question, conceptually, is it going to be similar then?
Yeah, well, again, conceptually, that is the house that he built over on Chicago Avenue. It's an arts and crafts, wood, siding, just a little bit of stone, and certainly we would make the house and the detached garage complement one another. And just to comment on the previous commissioner, we are below the required 30%, which is already reduced because of the flooding issue. And then on top of that, to do dry wells, possibly 2 areas, plus natural plantings, plus permeable pavers. I mean, bending over backwards to help with the flooding issues. And I mean, I certainly understand the neighbors, but we would do everything within our power to be help the situation rather than compound it.
I know everybody says that this is such a large structure, but as the gentleman just pointed out, if this was all attached together, I don't think they would be in front of us today. Because as an attached structure, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that there would be any questions on a variance for that. And allowing for the flare of the driveway and stuff, unless there was some odd way that was set up, they wouldn't even be here. So they could bring that barn all the way up and run it into the other 5 cars and have it still as one structure, and it could go then.
Yeah, I would say in most respects that is a flaw in the zoning ordinance that would allow that, except to the extent that this was viewed as an attached storage facility and not truly in character with a single-family home. Single-family homes are allowed, garages are allowed. Something of this size, I think staff would have to look at if it were attached or detached, whether it's an appropriate use.
Because I guess one of the things I struggle with is what is the rights of a property owner? So we've heard from everybody who's a neighbor, and I respect that you guys don't want to have a bigger mess and you don't want to have more flooding. I understand that. You've got somebody who owns this. Now, we've seen some other proposals for this property that called for a lot more coverage, and I don't think that you would have had as personal a representation as you do in this particular case. Where the gentleman will be owner occupying, and at least here on TV, sounds like he wants to be a good neighbor. So I guess, Commissioner Thomas, are we saying then that no one can build on this until all flooding in the 300 and 400 blocks are solved?
No, I think that's you can't expect that.
Because it sounds like they've even agreed to come down by shaving a little bit and get it down to closer to 29%.
But we just haven't seen anything, as from what I understand, we haven't seen anything that's positive. We haven't started winning anything on the
No,
rain
and I'm
thing.
not picking on you.
I
guess
understand it.
I'm just asking, is it his responsibility to fix the block? Is it his responsibility to not build?
It's his responsibility to do whatever he possibly can with the city to make it as right as you can. It's not your job to fix the block, but it is the city's the village's responsibility to show the neighborhood that you have the ability to fix it eventually. That's what I see as the village's responsibility. You only can take care of your property.
I'd like to be the first one to try and make it better.
I understand that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're uniquely positioned to do that.
So what I see here is that of the proposals we've had over the last few years, this is the best one we've seen so far in terms of owner-occupied, staying underneath the 30%, and making an investment that looks like it would be an asset in the neighborhood. Yes, there's a large structure in the back, but cumulatively, if those were attached together, this would not even be in front of us right now. I also think that like I said, these other options, they, you know, we've said no to those in the past. Those are options that I don't think were going to benefit the neighborhood. I think this is one of the better things we've heard. Yes, sir.
Again, sir, please, at the podium.
I appreciate those thoughts. One of the discussions I had with my architect and my builder is that the whole idea in this process is to make it look as aesthetically appealing as possible, like I did over on Roslyn by Subway. If we put it attached to the house, it would be closer to the front. I think it's nicer having the house closer to the front and having a bigger backyard. But if we had to make it satisfactory to the zoning, I could push the house back, close the garage up and attach it. I could make it smaller. I mean, we decided to go with the maximum that they allowed at 30%. I could cut it down to 28, 25. Such a big lot. It's very nice and spacious. I love it. But where can you do it and get it within the zoning that you accept now? So if I have to pull the garage up and the house back, I could do it.
Thank you.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Anton?
Mr. Benfield, I wish you were my neighbor, because I like to have a good neighbor next to me. Unfortunately, you can buy mine, take mine. The bank would love it. I have to agree with Commissioner Thomas. We don't have a lot of credibility there, and there's a lot of water problems, and I know you come and fix it. In this present schematic, the way you have it, I gotta say no to what that big garage back there. And I feel for you. I have a 44-foot RV. I have to keep it down at my shop, down in Wilmington, and I don't want it there. I'd rather have it at my place. I would love to have that too. You have a possibility. You have a way of doing this. I'm sure you're going to figure it out. In this present format, I can't go with that. That is what they're saying. I have to go with what they're saying. It is pretty big in that back area there. My problem would be height more than anything. Then you can get away with footprint, but the height is something everybody's gonna see. So if you had a lower, vision line, I think you'd have a better chance at it. And the RV is what's making, that the RV is what's making it tall.
That's the thing. You need at least a 12.
No, mine's 13.6. I can't get in anywhere.
And my door would be 14 foot. And the door on the building over on Roslyn, next to the Subway that I keep referring to, worked out perfect. It's been great. Neighbors are happy with it. The next door house is a beautiful house. The people in the strip mall, it's a buffer property, and this could be viewed the same way, even nicer.
I understand.
But if I brought it up to the house or brought the house back, I don't think it would be as aesthetically appealing. I'll do whatever the zoning requires.
In this present format, I have to go against it. I like everything else. I mean, you have to have the widths for the driveways to get into your spaces on the 5-car, which when I built my house, I only put 2 on. I don't know why I'm stupid. Yeah, I have to say that in this present format, I got to go with my other commissioner here, Thomas, and say it's too big for that in this present format. That's all I got.
Commissioner Van Buren.
Sounds like you're a pretty good investor. You've accumulated properties. You're able to build homes that sound like they're really nice. If you bought this property with the idea that this was going to happen, and if you have already closed on the property, it was a bad investment, because this is an over-the-top request, as we heard from our community development director. It's just not. We've never had anything this big to be requested in a residential area, and so I can't support it either. It's just too much. Your handicap is obvious, and I feel for it, but that doesn't extend into 10 vehicles on the property. Yeah.
I don't like to talk about it, but just when they talk about hardship, it makes sense. I think that is the highest and best use for this property. I think it's going to be hard to find somebody that's going to come in and build a regular house.
It is.
That it, Wally?
That's all.
Commissioner Fidesco.
I have a few comments. First one is that every property owner in the village has a right to come in to the Planning and Zoning Board, make a proposal, pay their money, and make the proposal, whether it makes sense or not, okay? You know, it's basically a right as being a property owner. That being said, I like this property. I mean, I like this concept. However, I like this concept in a semi-rural environment. This is the village of Westmont. This is not a semi-rural environment. I mean, this parcel would, you know, there are places around Illinois that have parcels this large, and this would fit wonderfully there. However, this is a residential neighborhood. You're asking for, as I look at it, the house footprint is about 1,900 square feet. The detached garage is 2,856, 50% larger than the house itself, and that includes the 5-car garage. That's rather substantial for a second garage. Whether you love it or not, it's rather substantial. There are properties in the village that have a second garage, typically 500 square feet or so, okay? I could even see going up to 600, 700, 800, but 2,800? That's almost absurd. You know, on top of that, it has to be as tall as it is because of what you'd like to store in it. It just does not fit the neighborhood. You know, I'm sorry, I can't support this, and when we come to the findings of fact, I'll make my call.
The property right behind me is going to have what built on it? Its own multi-family. It's going to be another 32-unit complex. So I don't understand why my project is going to have much less traffic.
This is an R3.
Now, and right next door to me is, what's it called? Multi-unit. Right behind me is,
That was done previous. That's not today.
that's not R3. Behind me is it? They can put a 32-unit complex in there if they want.
To which direction?
The west? To the west?
Be right west.
To the west,
Have to
it's-
look at the map.
That's R4. It is a general residence district to the west. That block is zoned R3, single family on your side.
To my side.
It's single family.
My backyard, 100 feet of it, butts up against another property. They can put up another 32-unit complex.
It is a different zoning district that would allow for multifamily to your west property line.
So they could put up another 32-unit complex, just like it's one door away.
No, it depends on the lot area. It depends on the number of bedrooms per unit. There are a number of factors that are
What would the
taken
ground-
into consideration.
What would the ground cover be, more than 30%?
It can, because it's an R4, it's different.
Right.
It's not the same as an R3.
That's my point. When you're looking at the properties from a bird's eye view, I'm right next to all these properties that are commercial, multi-unit, ground cover 80%. I'm covering 30%.
I understand you're covering 30%, but the fact is that we're looking at the size, I'm looking at the size of the garage. The size of the detached garage. It's a second garage on a parcel. It's a rather large parcel, but that detached garage, I know that it's going to be under the 30%. The fact is that the garage itself is 5 times larger than what is allowed. It's just oversized.
Right next door is going to be another apartment complex. It's
It
gonna
doesn't
be-
matter what's going to happen next door. We're talking about this parcel, we're talking about this garage, and it's oversized. I can't support that.
Mr. Benfield.
Thank you.
What can be built to the west of you, the vacant lot to the west of you, is not germane to this argument.
That's exactly what's going on here. Everybody's criticizing this.
Listen to me, I'm telling you, we are being asked to either approve or deny the variances of your lot, not as it pertains to the lot in back of you, which is different zoning. To bring that up just confuses the issue because it has nothing to do with the variances you are asking for.
I like the gentleman who was here earlier talking about logic. logical thing is, I'm next door to a multi-unit complex. My structure is going to be 50 feet away from another multi-unit complex. And they're talking about water drainage.
You're not next to anything. Right now, you're asking to build on a vacant lot with a house on either side of you, north or south, and a vacant lot to the west. So there's nothing there, so please, let's not assume that anything and everything, you're hurting your own case, okay?
If it hurts it,
Rehashing something that could be, could be.
if it hurts it, I'd like to talk about it, because I want to make sure I understand. Because right next door to me is a 6-unit complex that covers 80%. Right, Mel's place covers a lot more ground than mine. The volume of it, the cubic feet, is much bigger than what I'm proposing. The 32 units just 50 feet away or 100 feet away.
Mr. Benfield, if you don't desist from this inane argument, I'm going to rule you out of order.
Okay. I just want to make clear the issues.
Commissioner Fleet.
What I'm getting out, anything that goes on this side, we've always had conversations about flooding. And I'm sure even if you just put the house on there, if there's going to be conversations about flooding, we're going to have to do something about that. You know, going to the idea of a permeable driveway, help the flooding, going in and putting in dry wells to make sure that nothing flows off this property to exacerbate everything that's on the other side of the street. Still coming down to the fact that this is a very large garage we're putting up here, and
sometimes you try to.
I think that working with if you could work with your architect to maybe come up with something that has lower profile and maybe instead of have a 5-car attached garage, go to the 6-car attached garage. Get one of those cars out of there. Or reformat the attached garage, because we already talked about that you could, as a property owner, you could put this all together. But there's a lot of resistance from people in the neighborhood as to, absent the flooding problem, the visual problem. And I'm not so sure that your drawings here or the photograph that you gave us helped in ways, because the way the photograph scales out, it looks like it's another 5 feet above the 21 feet that you're actually going to be at. So this photograph even looks bigger than what you're scaling out to be. But I think you need to reconsider the volume and size of this building to match more with the sort of village setting we have as opposed to a rural setting. That's my comments.
That's it, Roy?
That's it.
Okay. One of the most important findings that we have to come up with is, under the findings of fact, and it's altering the character of the neighborhood. Now, one thing I have to judge for myself is, what are the rights of a property owner? And I have no doubt that given the size of your property, you could adequately store all of your stormwater on there. But as far as I'm concerned, you have failed everything that we have to consider, especially changing the character of the neighborhood. This is a gargantuan structure in an area of single-family homes predominantly. I'm excluding the flooding issue, and modest-sized garages. This is a large storage barn, which plain and simple has no use and no right being where it is. That's all I have to say on this. Any further comment from staff? Okay, since we have a request for variances, the first three variances for A, B, and C will be covered by one reading of the findings of fact. So if we may have a reading of the findings of fact, please, for the, all right, go ahead. Go ahead.
I get the sense from going around the corner, around the circle here, that the vote is going to be against me.
We don't know that yet.
I don't know, but they've said what they said. It looks pretty clear. What I'd like to hear is what I could do to be in the zoning ordinance that allows the garage to be attached to the house. It wasn't real clear.
I would think that a further conversation with staff could give you a much better idea. If you would care to postpone this hearing right now, come back at a later date, and withdraw this for right now.
I feel bad that the neighbors are against me, but I don't think...
I think you and your builder both, your design architect, have a pretty good feel as to what people would expect to see on that lot.
I will make a comment from a legal standpoint. The detached garage is, at least from the plans that I saw, I don't know if they're to scale. I assume they are significantly bigger than the footprint of the house, the first floor of the house. Plus, there's an attached 5-car garage that's being shown. So I think staff would have to consider whether a detached garage of almost 4,000 square feet plus a 5-car garage that would essentially hold 10 cars, a van, an RV, a boat, and a trailer is proper for a single-family neighborhood, and does the house stop being primarily a single-family house, and does it start being something else, which is a storage facility? From a legal standpoint, I will tell you that if that's the intention, is to attach the detached garage to the house as a way to get around a code provision, their staff will probably have to look at that very carefully.
That's what I like to do. I like to know where I stand. If it's the situation, then I'll know whether to abort the project or do something else. I still feel the issue that I know he disagrees with. You've got multi-unit buildings around there much bigger than what I am. And you're talking about water issues.
Well, I don't think the chairman wants to go into the pros and cons of this proposal. I think if you want to ask for a continuance so you can meet with staff and come up with some alternatives, then you should request that.
This would be the time to request it before we take a vote. Do you wish to withdraw and resubmit later with staff?
Can I take 30 seconds and talk to him?
Please.
It's actually south too, but it's for sale. Put that structure there or something in the front of it or something else. He's got the elevation on this. I don't know if that's something they suggest. Property's been for sale forever. I don't know if John wants to make their recommendation.
Everybody don't have a good profile here.
I don't want to sound too provocative, but I really am sincere about my situation. I want to do what's right. I want a big garage with plenty of space. It's not a rural neighborhood, but it's a neighborhood that's worse than a rural neighborhood. It's a dangerous neighborhood. You've been there at midnight, 7-Eleven. I'd like to think I could help the community a little bit.
Shh. Hush.
So the question is it better to just drop it and back off? Because I don't want to provoke anybody. I don't want to be a wise guy. I'm just trying to have a good place to be close to my family where I have been and have enough space to do things that would be reasonable.
Then why don't we have a reading of the findings of fact, see if we adopt them and reject them. We'll take our vote and you see where we stand.
Good. And if I need to come again with attaching the garage to the house, I'll do it. I think I should drop the project and I'll drop it.
Okay.
If we ask for a continuance,
Well, you have to
do
pay
we
another
come
fee.
back before the board, or do we start the process over? Do we pay the fees all over again? How does that work?
So this commission, typically, if someone steps in, whether it's before the public hearing starts or whether it's after a public hearing before it concludes, can ask for a continuance. But if things change in your plan requesting a different type of variance or a new variance, you've got to pay the publication costs all over again for republishing. So the idea of continuing it would be to save your client some money for publishing this.
So in other words, that would be coming back with still a request for a detached structure, but of much smaller scale, height, so on and so forth, and basically see if that floats. But it would not be to argue some other idea for the use of the property.
Correct.
And I think from what John, attorney, said, is that to try and put this all under one umbrella and call it a house, well, you may subvert the zoning. It wouldn't fly.
I'd like to know how they would stop it, but since it's not addressed in the zoning, because I've been through the zoning.
Well, I told you how, that if staff would likely give an interpretation that it's not primarily a single-family home, that the predominant use based on the square footage would be a storage or warehouse facility. And you would be free to disagree with that and then take whatever action you felt was necessary.
I don't think we want to go there either. Well, I'll leave that decision to you about asking for a continuance, but if we don't ask for continuance, can we still address item 4 independently? So
Yes.
that when we do, if we decide to follow through and just do a large attached garage, that we at least don't have to approach you again for a variance on the driveway.
Right.
Might have also remind you, sir, we are only a recommending board. That even whatever we recommend, the Board of Trustees, they may listen to us, they may not.
Right. So we still go before the board even if you reject?
Absolutely, sir.
And there have been times when the board has disagreed with the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Rare.
I will, yeah, with the driveway, if, let's say hypothetically, the variance for the detached garage is denied, still have the issue of considering a variance for the driveway where it connects to the proposed 5-car attached garage.
Correct, because that's 46 feet.
So just, we'll let you know, that would,
If that's possible, we'd like to, we won't ask for the continuance. You can take your vote on the.
All right, very
attached
good.
building, but we would like you to entertain the fourth item for a wider driveway, because even a 3-car or 4-car garage would still require something wider than the 22 feet, so we would ask you to entertain that motion.
Thank you, sir. Okay, may we have a reading of the findings of fact? Again, if everybody's forgotten, the first reading that we have will cover the first 3 items, A, B, and C.
Request for variances to allow a detached garage over 28 feet in length and over 576 square feet in area and over 15 feet in height. Criteria number 1, the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it's located. The variances for an oversized detached garage are sought to preserve the character of the area and of this property by allowing for the storage of collectible vehicles, a trailer and boat, and an RV inside rather than outside where they're visible to neighbors. The property is large and the proposed structure will comply with lot coverage requirements. The owner cannot yield a reasonable return on this large property while preserving the character of the neighborhood without this variance. Criteria number 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. The owner proposes this garage to allow for the indoor storage of his various vehicles rather than outside storage, which may impact the aesthetics of the neighborhood. Criteria number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. The proposed detached garage will be set back approximately 200 feet from the front property line and at least partially shielded by the house on the property. The variation, if granted, will help preserve the character of the neighborhood by allowing for the indoor storage of applicants' various vehicles rather than outdoor storage. The proposed detached garage will be aesthetically pleasing and will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
Okay, if you agree with these findings, please raise your hand. If you disagree, please raise your hand. We are unanimous in the disagreement with the findings of fact, therefore they are not adopted for a variance. Okay, under Planning and Zoning item 13023, item A, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees a zoning code variance request to allow the construction of a detached garage over 28 feet in length in the R3 single-family detached residence district.
So move.
Understand this, according to Robert's Rules of Law, motion should be made in the affirmative. That does not affect whether you vote for or against.
Second.
Okay? Okay, that's a motion by Commissioner Van Buren, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on the motion? May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Anton.
No.
Commissioner Van Buren votes no. Commissioner Thomas.
No.
Commissioner Fleet.
No.
Commissioner Pill.
No.
Commissioner Fidesco.
No.
And Chairman Richard.
No. Okay, under item B, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Item B, a zoning code variance request to allow the construction of a detached garage over 576 square feet in area in the R3 single-family detached residence district.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Anton, seconded by Commissioner Fidesco. A question on the motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Van Buren votes no. Commissioner Thomas.
No.
Commissioner Fleet.
No.
Commissioner Pill.
No.
Commissioner Fidesco.
No.
Commissioner Anton.
No.
And Chairman Richard.
No. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Item C, a zoning code variance request to allow the construction of a detached garage over 15 feet in height in the R3 single-family detached residence district.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fidesco, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. A question on the motion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas.
No.
Commissioner Fleet.
No.
Commissioner Pill.
No.
Commissioner Fidesco.
No.
Commissioner Anton.
No.
Commissioner Van Buren votes no. And Chairman Richard.
No.
So we talked about the wording for. And just make a clarification.
Of course.
Since you denied the variance for the detached garage, I guess we should view the findings of fact and the vote on the driveway with variance to apply solely to the attached 5-car garage and not the detached garage. I guess that's self-evident, but
That's fine.
it's getting late.
Pull that out.
John, run that by me again. The hour's late and my mind is tired.
Just to clarify, the findings of fact and the vote on the driveway variance would only apply to the driveway width where it meets the attached garage at the house.
Okay.
It no longer would apply to the detached garage unless the applicant, well, you know what, I take that back.
You gotta leave it.
Yeah, read the findings of fact as they are, and let's break it into two votes. And one would be a recommendation for the detached garage, and one would be a recommendation for the attached garage, because the Board of Trustees could disagree, and they may, and you'd want to have some findings of fact.
Sure.
And a vote on each.
Will the one reading of the findings of fact take care of both motions then?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Thank
May we have a reading of findings of fact for a driveway variation?
Request for a variance to allow a driveway greater than 22 feet. Criteria number 1, the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it's located. The extra driveway width is necessary for access into a proposed attached 5-car garage and detached garage. The applicant could not safely and effectively maneuver into these garages without this additional driveway width, and therefore could not yield a reasonable return on this property. Criteria number 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. The driveway will only exceed the maximum width at the extended flares into each garage, and the property will meet the lot coverage requirements. Criteria number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. The extended driveway flares will be located in the rear of the property and shielded by the proposed house. The driveway will not impact the aesthetics or character of the neighborhood.
All right. Here's what we're going to do, gentlemen. We're going to break the driveway into two parts. Going to vote them either up or down. We're going to have a reading of the same findings of fact, driveway for the house and the driveway for the garage.
And she just read the findings. So you want to apply those findings first to the detached garage only and vote on that?
Right. So the findings that have just been read will be for the detached garage only.
So moved.
Actually, we just need an all in favor.
No, this is still.
Yeah. So if you approve of these findings of fact, raise your hand. This is for the detached garage.
This is the driveway to the detached garage.
Right.
Okay?
No. Okay, but we're separating the
Correct.
22 feet on the garage.
Yes.
And we're voting to separate that.
Yes. Okay?
And this first vote,
Voting these findings of fact. If you are not in favor of the garage, you will not be, presumably you will not be in favor of a driveway for the garage.
correct.
But I thought you're trying to save them the.
That's not true.
It's not true.
No.
Yeah, what they're saying, I think, is they're okay with the driveway, it's the garage.
Garage is
It's
the
the
problem.
structure itself that,
They're gonna come back and modify their garage, their detached garage in some way or form. We're just trying to say that if they come
Okay.
back, they don't need another driveway motion.
Just, yeah,
So yes on both driveways. because-
whatever that garage might be, if
Yes.
they come back.
Yes.
The flare would, if it happens to be over 22
And/or-
feet, it'll be approved for that garage.
And or
Okay,
for
so-
overridden too.
We have one motion, it is for one driveway
Or denied.
for the whole property.
Over 22.
or do you want two votes, two yeses, or a yes and a no, or?
Actually, if you're inclined to approve it, that you don't see a distinction between the two, then you can do a single vote.
Let's,
Or two, like you said, so that trustees can do what they want to do.
Right.
Yeah, that
So
should
we do
protect
it
the
twice.
trustees.
All right, so there was a reading of findings of fact for the garage width as it applies to the detached garage, and there's a vote on that. And the vote was, okay, we need something in the record indicating what the vote was. You raised your hands. Was everyone for?
For what now?
You want to take that vote again
Findings
for
of
the
fact.
detached?
okay,
For the
yeah,
detached
For the
garage.
detached.
okay. In the affirmative, all 6 commissioners except Chairman Richard vote in the affirmative. Chairman Richard votes no on the findings of fact.
Wow, guy. Now for the attached garage.
Now we have to do the other one.
And then, without having to read them all over again,
No,
because they're the
just-
same findings, we just need a vote on the driveway variance where it meets the attached garage.
Okay.
All in favor?
I'm in favor.
Okay, unanimous in adopting that. Okay. I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. Item D, a zoning code variance request to allow a driveway wider than the 20-foot, it's late, wider than the 22-foot maximum width allowed by village code.
So moved.
Second.
And I'd like
Motion by
to,
Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner Anton. Question on the motion.
I'd like to amend that to specify the detached garage.
Right.
We're going to have two votes.
Okay.
So this is just for the detached garage.
Motion to amend?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Anton to amend, to recognize that the driveway variance is for the detached garage.
Correct.
May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Pill,
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco,
Yes.
Commissioner Anton,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet.
Yes.
Chairman Richard.
No. Okay, we're gonna,
So, I'm sorry, that was just a vote on the amendment, or was that a vote on the original motion as amended? Just a vote on the amendment?
Original motion as
oh,
amended.
we did
Okay.
have,
Right.
we did have an amendment, so that was for the amendment.
Okay.
Now
gotcha.
let's have a vote for the motion for the variance, for the driveway, for the
For the
detached
attached.
garage.
We just did the detached.
That's what I was trying to clarify under Robert's
Yeah,
rules.
right.
Technically, someone made a motion
He's right.
and seconded it, and then Commissioner Pill said, I want to amend it. So first
We
you're
voted for
voting
the
on the
amendment.
amendment, on whether you
Okay.
want to amend the original motion.
Right.
You voted to approve that. Now you need to vote on the original motion as amended for the detached. Sorry to confuse things.
Which already has a motion and a second on the floor.
Yes.
Yes.
So we can go ahead and call roll call right away for item
But
D for
just for
detached.
clarification, this is for a variance for the detached garage driveway.
Correct.
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 May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Fidesco.
Yes.
Commissioner Anton.
Yes.
Commissioner Pill.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet.
Yes.
Chairman Richard.
No.
I like that, okay.
And mainly Chairman Richard votes no because the driveway itself could be one large storage area exposed to the elements.
Staff and
Something we should think of.
Mr. Chairman, I would be happy to make a motion E that would request a driveway, to allow a driveway wider than the 22-foot maximum width allowed by village code for the attached garage.
Second.
That's a motion, I didn't even have to ask for that.
Huh?
Fishing on this side over here.
Usurping my authority.
Exactly.
Okay, this will be item E, which is a zoning variance request for a driveway wider than 22 foot for the attached garage. Motion by Commissioner Pill, seconded by Commissioner Anton. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Anton.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fleet.
Yes.
Commissioner Pill.
Yes.
Commissioner Fidesco.
Yes.
And Chairman Richard.
Yes.
Did I call you?
Yeah. Getting late.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're as confused as I,
Blame it on the attorney.
essentially what we've done is we have turned down the gentleman's request for the detached garage. The board has voted to recommend a driveway for the detached garage. Why, I don't know. That's my opinion. Then, we have voted to recommend approval of a variance for the driveway for the 5-car attached garage,
Right.
and that's where it stands. Please, if you would, home audience is still trying to listen if they're awake.
Oh, they're not one.
So by the findings right now, they can build a driveway off 200 feet down the lot with nothing there, have a landing strip for his airplane that he owns,
No.
and that's all good, right?
No, no.
Why do you think I voted no? But yes, you're correct.
Okay,
Okay?
just making sure.
You gotta get a permit, you can't, it doesn't happen.
All right.
Slide that 32 footer right in there.
I think you need a permit
Okay,
too.
ladies and gentlemen, staff, is there anything else to come before this board?
Not tonight.
I just have one question on the findings of fact. The process has kind of been refined over the years. One option, and I've seen many communities do this, is there are prepared written findings of fact. They're distributed to everyone in advance of the meeting. You have a chance to read them, and then the chairman just says, okay, we're going to take a vote on the findings of fact that were distributed to you, but they're not necessarily read out loud. That would improve the efficiency of the meeting. And then you could have discussion. If you want to have discussion, you can make modifications if you want to modify. The downside is the public doesn't hear the reading of the findings of fact, but there's no requirement that they have to.
No, but I think it's an education process for the public, which they're entitled to,
I think so too,
see
and for the most part, it's
as
not.
to how we make a decision.
Okay.
I gotta go with the really senior guys down there.
So I myself,
Nice idea, though.
I like the reading of the findings of fact for the public.
Okay.
Entertain a motion, all in favor of a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Anton, seconded by Commissioner Van Buren. Everybody in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.